everywhere, and they're targeting your equity. With just a single forged document, they can file at the county. So don't wait until it's too late. Find out today. Please go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use the promo code BILL to get a free title history report, plus a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. On this Thursday, crime is back. Undocumented migrant crime. President Trump made a huge deal about it in his address on Tuesday. The Democratic response was an oldie. Migrants commit crimes at a lower rate than U.S. citizens. So what? Even if that claim is true, which it is not, why would any country accept criminal activity from foreign nationals who have no legal right to be in that country in the first place? That's nuts. In the USA, the migrant crime stat is taken from Texas data, not FBI national statistics. Also, at least 11 states do not report migrant crimes under sanctuary policies. Here's the most vivid example I can give you. The drug trafficking in San Francisco, an enormous problem, is controlled by Honduran illegal aliens. Not only does the city fail to prosecute most drug dealers, the state of California will not cooperate with federal law enforcement to even arrest the Honduran pushers. Talk about a get-out-of-jail-free card. Same thing happened in Minnesota with the Somali thieves. No state cooperation or even investigation into the billion-dollar fraud exposed by a freelance journalist. So Democrats, please spare us the propaganda about migrant criminals. It's insulting. Back after this. More Americans are switching to all-family pharmacy because getting medication should not depend on your insurance company telling you no. If you already know what works for you and want real medical freedom, you have to choose the right pharmacy. All Family Pharmacy handles everything, including the doctor's prescription, ships right to your door. So please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/bill, use code BILL10, save 10% on your next order. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shane Scott with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking clearing skies as the day goes on. Highs towards the mid-50s. Big story, though, Friday and Saturday, temperatures well above average. 70 degrees, mostly sunny Friday. Saturday, a little chillier, back towards the mid-60s, still warm. Then Saturday night, could see some isolated chances of showers. Before Sunday, rain switches over to a possible wintry mix as we head towards the evening overnight hours. That'll continue until Monday, then switching back over to rain. More potential for a mix into Tuesday morning. From First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shane Scott.
Let's get moving, St. Louis. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on NewsTalkSTL.
All right, we're in the backstretch of the week. Is it just me? I mean, tell me what you think of social media. Has the week gone, fast for you, or has this one been dragging on? For some reason, I got up this morning, and I'm just thinking, man, it's Thursday already? This week's moving pretty fast. So let me know what you think on that. By the way, that means Flashback Friday is tomorrow, so send Jerome your 80s bump music request, and the theme that he picked out, very apropos, between the Olympics and then obviously what happened in the State of Union address. How about those America songs or just those victory songs? If you want to take a victory lap in anything, what songs would you pick? So send those to him. All right, good morning. Mike Ferguson here, of course. We had a good discussion, as always, with our friend Jane Pushkar from the Francis Howell School Board with an update on the challenge to the books in the library. And here's what's funny. Being a kind of a small L libertarian here, I don't like the idea of censorship or banning books, but that's not what's happening here. Literally, these books are literary pornography and how-to guides for a lot of deviant behavior, and nobody's saying they can't exist, but the challenge is, should the school district be offering or pushing them onto children? That's a whole different question. Jane gave us the update on Wednesday's show. Here's what she said. almost 2/3 of the books being challenged in the Francis Howell School District Library, so far at least, are found to be, let's just call it something the public schools should not be providing your kids. Yeah, because we've followed this story. We're now joined by Jane Pushkar from the Francis Howell School District Board. And Jane, I saw this on the Francis Howell Families website. They say 64% of the books that are being challenged are being either removed, and that's the vast majority of them, and some of the others are being restricted. Now, how far are we in the process of getting all of the challenged books reviewed at this point? Because as I recall last time you were on the show, there were quite a few that some people had a problem with.
Yes, absolutely. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Susie. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And in response to what you said earlier, I would like to call this deporting pornography from our schools. So there's that. I just wanted to say that, yes, we have had this win with getting some of these books out of the libraries. 22 books were removed, and some were rated only for adults. Books such as Tricks by Ellen Hopkins, Damsel, and Bronxwood, they were removed for various reasons, but one of the big ones was does not meet collection development requirements in Policy 6310, which admits that these books are not age appropriate for these kids. They did restrict 3 more to the high school level only, which is a win. And even though I don't agree with some of these books, that I still will thank the school districts for doing that. But the fight's not over. It's just not over. What they did was they kept another 25, or no, I'm sorry, they kept another 17 books. And one of the books that they kept is titled Queer, the Ultimate LGBTQ Guide for Teens. That tells you exactly what the topic is. The Bluest Eye, a well-known and disgusting book, and Sold, which I read from in the boardroom, which everybody did not like because it's pornographic. You still cannot read excerpts from these books on the radio. And I would like to remind your listeners that these books that are on this list that they kept fulfill the definition of pornography by the Missouri Revised Statute of 573.010.
Jane, we've talked about this a little bit, but I want to kind of take a step back. How do we get here to begin with? In other words, before we get to the point of saying, wait a second, this book shouldn't be there, we want to get it removed, how do we end up with these types of books so prevalent in the system to begin with?
Well, the decision to put a book in the library rested solely in the hands of a library media specialist. And there was, I'm sure internally they had some sort of oversight, but they're going by reviews reviews that are put on the internet that are definitely so liberal that they found nothing wrong with these books. They claimed that they had educational suitability. Well, maybe parts of these books do, but the parts that don't are what we're really rebelling against.
Yeah, and
so that's basically as a library media specialist.
Yeah, because we're talking about the novels, because the Francis Howell Families website provides links to basically excerpts and reviews of the books, because they didn't even want to put them in their blog. And then once I read the excerpts, I completely understand why, because some of these we're talking about novels that are, I mean, there's no other purpose for what was written other than sexual titillation. I mean, that's all there is. That's all there is to it. And so I want to clarify also, we're not talking about any lawsuits to ban anybody from buying these on their own or finding them somewhere else or publishing them or writing them or reading them to your kids in your own home if you want. We're just talking about the public school library system. So talk to the people for a second, Jane, who are saying, there you go, you bunch of conservative Christian book banners. Look at that. How does history treat those who burn the books? That's not what's happening right now.
We're not banning books. We're taking pornography out of our schools, and it's been defined, as I said, 573.010. The other problem is that why are these books in there in the first place? I don't understand why they feel that they have to be made available to everyone when, if that's what they want to read, go for it. Like you said, it's on Amazon. It's in the public library. But in the public school library, you have a captive audience. You don't have parents there that can guide their children into what to read and what not to read. And some of these books, Mike, I might have to tell you that they were weeded out because they were so worn. What does that tell you?
Yeah, it means teenagers like to find naughty stuff.
Right. And I was told one time, and this makes sense, these books, maybe a part of the book has educational suitability. It's questionable. Maybe it doesn't. But the problem is that, they like I said, they still want them to have these books available. I don't understand.
Jane, obviously, like you said, that the fight isn't over. There's still an ongoing. There's back and forth over what is there, what shouldn't be there. What are the next steps to continue to address this and make sure that we're doing everything we can to prevent exposure to inappropriate material for school age kids?
Well, they made the next steps harder, Susie, and they did that by changing parts of policy 6310, which, is the policy we were doing to take the books out in the first place. What they did was they increased the length of time, meaning that from the time the first challenge is made to the conclusion of the challenge, they increased that time from 11 to 21 weeks. They had a proposal for 9 members. They took it down to 7 members, but they also put a librarian back on the committee. Now, the librarians are the ones responsible for putting the book in the first place, and I can tell you that no librarian has willingly taken a book out of the Francis Howell Library. The other thing they did was they demanded that the person challenging the book come before the committee and explain why you don't like the book. That's intimidation. And then the other thing they did was you used to be able to challenge a book every 2 years. Now it's every 3 years. And that was voted on at the last board meeting. So the next steps are they've made it harder. But here's the part where things might look a little bit better for us. Because this year, if you vote for Pushkar, Greenwood, and Jaworski, we will get 3 true conservatives on this board. And then next year, we only need 2 more seats. And when we get those 2 more seats next year, then necessary changes to get these books out of the library will be done.
Jane, was sexual content the only reason for the challenges, or were there other reasons some of these books were challenged? I know the majority of them were the sexual content, but were there other factors involved in any of these books?
Well, there was the one book that I read from the dais that has the N-word in it. Racist. I mean, totally racist. It had that in the book like 33 times or something like that. There's no need for that. I was told at one point that these authors put stuff like this in the book because it'll sell more books.
Yeah, let me follow up. Let me jump in and follow up on that. Like, how could that possibly? You look at the examples of something like To Kill a Mockingbird, or you look at Huckleberry Finn, or you look at some of those books. Could legitimate literature be caught up in the zealous effort to protect kids from, I guess, the exploitive aspect of that? I mean, is it possible that books about the civil rights movement or anything like that could inadvertently be caught up as an unintended consequence?
In my estimation, no, that's not our purpose, and that's not what we're after. This is not book banning, which if you take the classics out, that, in my estimation, is book banning. However, that's not what we're after. We're after sexual and age-inappropriate content. There's no reason why an 11-year-old needs a guide for LGBTQ, in my estimation.
Right. Jane, are you hearing from either board members or parents or concerned citizens in other school districts that are facing similar challenges?
I have friends in other school districts in the area, in St. Charles County, and yes, they have the same issues. The issue with other board members, though, they're fighting different fights. So, I mean, we all have our things that, we're trying to get changed within the school district. So they admit, and they said that they have found these books in their library. So if we get those out, there is a possibility that other boards and school districts will follow our lead.
Yeah, and I think pretty much all the districts have this. I mean, I was shown some examples of what was in the Rockwood School District, even in the middle school and the grade school libraries, and it was abhorrent. So my guess is this is happening in every single public school district, probably without exception. But you all are putting the spotlight on. There is something you can do about it. And this, just the last minute or so we're visiting with Jane Pushkar from the Francis Howell School Board. And this shows how crucial these April elections are. And I don't mean to segue
Absolutely.
into an election topic, but that's what we harp on every year. Everybody gets worked up over the presidential and the U.S. Senate and the congressional races, and we should, but so few people pay attention and don't show up in April, and this is literally what's at stake for our families.
Last year on the Election Authority website, 13% of the qualified voters showed up to vote. 13%. I won by like 1,700 votes.
Yeah.
That's not a lot in a town of 89,500 registered voters.
Yeah. I mean, bottom line is in these April elections, if conservatives show up, conservatives win.
Well, we're hoping that Prop RT will bring them out. That's the freezing property taxes.
Prop RT.
So we're hoping Prop RT. Yes, used to be SB3.
Clever.
Yeah.
There it is. All right, Jane. Let's go ahead and do your website campaigns, because we've had all three of the candidates that you've mentioned. We've had all of them on the program here, but people want to learn more about them. What's the best way to find them?
Well, you can go to jane4fhsd.org. That will take you to the Francis Howe Families webpage, and all three of our bios and what we stand for are on those pages. But I can tell you, we pretty much, three of us all stand for the same thing: fiscal responsibility, parental rights, and also the third one, which is taking these books out of schools.
All right, once again, we've got Flashback Friday coming up, tomorrow. So you've got today to get your bump music request in. So send those to Jerome at NewsTalkSTL.com. This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
This year, America turns 250, and News Talk STL is celebrating our nation's semi-quincentennial all year long. News Talk STL, #1 for live and local Soros-free talk, with proud supporters of our 250th birthday celebration, custom foam, and Lee-May concrete block. 250 years strong, and we're just getting started. 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Chris Cooper here, your financial friend from Serenity Wealth Management. We have a special show coming up this weekend on News Talk STL. Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Tune into the Serenity Wealth Now show. This week featuring special guest Katie Lizak of the Sparrow's Nest. We're going to talk about charitable giving and making sure the money you donate can go the farthest to help your community. Tune in right here Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Serenity Wealth Now show right here on News Talk STL.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com is your one-stop shop for expert insured tree care and more in the greater St. Louis region and at the Lake of the Ozarks. Visit hansonstree.com for 24/7 emergency tree care, grinding and land clearing, awesome organic mulch, green resource recycling, and more. Tim Jones here to tell you that whether you're dealing with old man winter at your home or business in the St. Louis region or preparing your lake home for spring, call Hanson's to help you out. No job too big or too small. Mention News Talk STL. Receive 10% off all tree care services. hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
A Disney cruise is no ordinary vacation. It's an adventure, a fairy tale, a dream. Step aboard and discover where favorite Disney characters meet fun for the whole family, where total rest and relaxation meet the ultimate escape and excitement, where a dream vacation meets a magical cruise. Only on Disney Cruise Line, where magic meets the sea.
Magic Expeditions will make planning your Disney cruise easy. Reach out at magicexpeditions.com.
Lower your car payment today. Lower your car payment today. Yes, you heard us right. You can lower your car payment right now by making this free call and save up to $1,400 a year on your current car payments. Think about your current car payment right now. What's that costing you per year? Now think about what it would be like to put an extra $1,400 back in your pocket. That's the average savings our customers experience. We can help you drive the same car and pay less every month by lowering your car payment's interest rate to as low as 4.67%. At Rate Genius, we can work with you to refinance any car payment. If you qualify, it costs you nothing to find out how you can lower your car payment. To learn more, call this number right now.
800-493-5670. 800-493-5670. 800-493-5670. That's 800-493-5670.
Hey, Lois, it's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Some activists around here are not happy with the popo. Not happy with the popo. Nope, because the popo are working with the feds to enforce the law.
So they're doing their job?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to include that in part of the story, but they're upset with them. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to go into this in more depth at 6:20, but here's what we saw. And Lauren Traeger over at Channel 4 did a good job with the story. There's an immigrant rights activist group in the city. Okay. You know where this is going, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And they are upset because there are dozens of law enforcement agencies, many of which are in the region here, that are signing agreements with ICE to basically have certain officers trained and authorized to make arrests on behalf of ICE or CPB or whoever, basically immigration enforcement. Now, in exchange for that, their training is reimbursed and the part of their salaries could be covered. Equipment is given. So there's a lot of financial incentives for this in order to do that. Now, the exchanges, you may say, well, why would the federal government be doing that? Well, for instance, if somebody, let's just say in Jeffco or Washington County or somewhere like that, comes across somebody who's confirmed to be an illegal alien, well, they can sit there and detain them and wait for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours for an ICE officer to get there from the city or from Kansas City or from wherever they've got to go. Or they can make the arrest and put them in detainment, do the report, go back out on the street, and ICE will be on the way and come pick them up. So it's an efficiency thing, and it's also part of the broader crackdown on illegal immigration. And the local activist group that's highlighted in this story, and even though they're highlighted, Lauren Traeger went out and got both sides of the story. So she did a journalism.
Very good.
A legitimate journalism. And I think Lauren Traeger's generally really good at what she does. And she's been on the show before. And so, they just talked to them, and of course they did the dog whistles, racial profiling, and they're concerned about this. And then they went and interviewed the Washington County Sheriff, which we're going to hear at 6:20, and he went, no, it's not changing how this does, and we get equipment, and we're enforcing the law anyway. And he gets our officers back out on the roads to protect people instead of sitting for hours with somebody.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine this having almost being a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it would cause, I think, less mass hysteria if it was just looks like an officer doing a regular officer duty that just so happened to also be empowered with some additional responsibilities to get ICE to come out there and do what they need to do. So for avoiding the crazy protest backlash stuff, I think that is good for public safety. But on the other hand, I don't know, something about the federal government interacting with state or city level people just kind of feels a little bit too much of a blend of power. If that makes sense.
That's interesting. So 6:20, I've clipped up pieces of a report, so we'll play that. And I think that's an interesting point. That's honestly, to be really honest, Jerome, that's the point I had not considered, because I was the lead guy all those years ago against the MIAC centers.
Oh.
I mean, I was the face of it, like 20 years ago. So yeah, I've got a little bit of experience on that, like here in Missouri. All right, last minute or so that we've got here. I know you're not a huge baseball guy. You're more of a hockey as opposed to baseball guy, which is cool. They're now doing robo umpires.
Oh,
and they're testing it out in spring training. So the challenges are being overturned about half the time. So I don't know if they're any better or any worse.
Hey, it's Vic and Ken with something important.
Yeah, Missouri's veterans aren't done serving, they're leading.
Join us March 5th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Washington University's historic Holmes Lounge for the next mission, Missouri's Veterans Leading the Way.
Hear from General Frank Grass, former member of the Joint Chiefs, plus veteran leaders from Equifax and Scale AI.
Business leaders, veterans, and community members from across Missouri. This conversation on veteran leadership and mental health matters.
It's free and open to the public, but seating is limited.
Register now at welcomehomeforum.org.
Hey, Tony Colombo here, inviting you out for a great night of fun and rock and roll with the Queen Tribute Somebody to Love, Friday, March 20th at the Mill in Granite City. My band, Tony Colombo and the North County Sound Machine, featuring Katie Fitzpatrick, opens the show, followed by the ultimate Queen experience from Somebody to Love. That's Friday, March 20th at the Mill, Granite City's premier concert and event venue, brought to you by Weber Chevrolet. Support local music and join us for a great party. Tickets and info now at themill.events.
Hi, I'm Rodney Wallner.
And I'm Jen Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Jen, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission plan?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
Honey, he says we're in legal trouble, and we're going to lose our retirement. We have to get to a crypto ATM now.
This can't be right. It's not right. I'm Attorney General Catherine Hanaway. We've received reports of devastating new scams involving crypto ATMs. Let's report this. We're here to help. Report suspected fraud at 800-392-8222 or visit ago.mo.gov.
Sponsored by the Missouri Attorney General's Office.
I'm in my late 60s. My husband died a few years ago. He did all of our taxes. I sold a piece of property last year, and I forgot to claim the proceeds of the sale. Next thing I know, I got a letter from the IRS telling me that I owe over $50,000. Now I have a huge tax problem. I don't have that kind of money. I wish I knew who to call.
If you sold property in the last calendar year or didn't claim all of your part-time or even retirement income, you could be in big trouble with the IRS. Call first before they send you a letter. If you've already got a letter, call. We'll help you file years of past tax returns and save you time and money. So call the tax doctor. The call is confidential and free.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. Arnett Thomason. Deadly gunfire off the northern coast of Cuba involving a speedboat from Florida. Havana says the 10 people on board are Cubans living in the U.S., accuses them of trying to infiltrate the island. 4 were killed by Cuban agents. Secretary of State Rubio says the U.S. is investigating. The U.S. and Iran holding a third round of nuclear talks.
Omani Foreign Minister Badr al-Busaidi leaves the hotel with his delegation en route to Iran-U.S. negotiations. The state-run Oman news agency says al-Busaidi is expected to meet with the American negotiating team this morning to convey the Iranian perspective and in turn listen to the ideas and proposals put forward by the American side. The talks are viewed as a last chance for diplomacy as America's gathered a fleet of aircraft and warships to the Middle East to pressure Tehran into a deal. President Donald Trump wants the deal to constrain Iran's nuclear program, and he sees an opportunity while the country is struggling at home with growing dissent following nationwide protests last month. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Allegations of Medicaid fraud have prompted the Trump administration to withhold nearly $260 million to the state of Minnesota.
We have decided to temporarily halt certain amounts of Medicaid funding that are going to the state of Minnesota in order to ensure that the state of Minnesota takes its obligations seriously to be good stewards of the American people's tax money.
Vice President Vance. A House committee conducting the Jeffrey Epstein investigation will hear today from Hillary Clinton. Her testimony to be followed by that of former President Clinton. He is due to testify tomorrow. The Clintons agreed to testify after being threatened with a contempt charge. On Wall Street this morning, the Dow futures are down 24 points. NASDAQ futures off 20. More on these stories, townhall.com.
This month, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Benjamin Franklin by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G service. What's up with that? Ben Franklin wasn't even a president. When you switch to Pure Talk, you'll be in business with an American wireless company that supports our vets in a big way and keeps all their customer service in this country. That's important. And you'll be on the same towers the big carriers use, so you'll get the same 5G service without the inflated price. So hang on to your Benjamins and switch to Pure Talk for a Jackson and a Lincoln. No contract, no hidden fees. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and you'll get 50% off your first month when you switch. That's pound 250, Mike Rowe, for an American wireless company that is truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shane Scott with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking clearing skies as the day goes on, highs towards the mid-50s. Big story, though, Friday and Saturday, temperatures well above average, 70 degrees, mostly sunny Friday. Saturday, a little chillier, back towards the mid-60s, still warm. Then Saturday night, could see some isolated chances of showers. Before Sunday, rain switches over to a possible wintry mix as we head towards the evening, overnight hours. That'll continue until Monday, then switching back over to rain, more potential for a mix into Tuesday morning. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shane Scotch.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at BluffCityOutdoors.com.
If you love your pet, which I know you do, then they deserve the excellent treatment and care they'll receive at Pacific Animal Hospital in Pacific, Missouri, a full-service veterinarian facility. Originally built and grown by my dad, Dr. Bill Jones, a new generation of wonderful veterinarians and staff at Pacific continue to provide outstanding medical, surgical, dental, boarding, and grooming services for your favorite furry friends. Our family entrusts the care of our pets only to the experienced docs and staff at Pacific Animal Hospital. You should too. Call them today, 636-257-2100, 24/7 at PacificVets.com, PacificVets.com.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
The story behind the story when Granddad was teaching him to catch catfish using treble hooks and blood bait.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
Boo! Relax, nerd.
Susie Moore.
And that would be a good time to respond with some applause.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, St. Louis.
That's a banana republic without the banana.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
So, are we going to bomb Iran or what?
I don't know.
Maybe we'll...
We might.
Yeah, we might. Also, I guess I could have also done this is like, so are the Clintons going to show up for the Epstein deposition or
They
not?
are.
They are. Apparently that's today.
Today.
Right?
Hillary's today, Bill is tomorrow.
Okay.
It's a limited parameters in terms of the types of questions they're going to be able to be asked.
So was that a negotiated thing?
I'm assuming so. So it's not like they're going to get into specifically what did you do? It's more like what did you know about this aspect of things.
Huh. So is that unusual that somebody who is subpoenaed negotiates what they're allowed to be asked about?
I don't know how to answer that because this is an unusual situation. I mean, it's not a run-of-the-mill deposition. You're talking about, first of all, testifying before Congress.
Right.
Secondly, you're talking about a former president and former Secretary of State. Yeah. So it's not shocking to me that there were some level of negotiations in that.
Yeah. All right. Also, President Trump's choice for Surgeon General, meeting with some skepticism in her confirmation hearing. And the Blues are back on the ice tonight, and the Cardinals offer fans the choices for a Team Hall of Fame ballot for the class of 2026. It is coming up on 6:07. Let's go ahead and get started with the news dump here.
The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks, the Morning News Dump.
Okay, we start off with what's happening in Iran. The U.S. and Iran resume talks in Switzerland today. President Trump, of course, openly considering military strikes, but he still insists Iran wants to make a deal. Speaking to reporters after a meeting with Caribbean leaders, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the conversation is, of course, focused on nuclear weapons.
We hope progress can be made, because that's the president's preference, to make progress on the diplomatic front. But it's also important to remember that Iran refuses to talk about the ballistic missiles, to us or to anyone. And that's a big problem.
Okay, so American fighter jets arrived in the Middle East from a base in the UK already. It's the largest military buildup in the region since the start of the Iraq War in 2003.
Yeah, I mean, I think the message is clear. We mean business, so you better be ready to talk some serious turkey or else.
Or there's a big or else there. And Trump has not been shy about the or else.
No, and I mean, I think that works to the benefit of the United States, that people have to believe that he may very well follow through with something pretty significant.
Well, it's not like Iran can sit there and go, "Oh, he'll never do it."
Well, exactly, they already know firsthand.
I mean, that's off the table. Oh my goodness! All right, a former Missouri Speaker of the House could spend years in prison. Yep, federal prosecutors are asking for a sentence of 21 to 27 months for John Deal. The former speaker pleaded guilty in September to wire fraud, admitting to misusing hundreds of thousands of dollars in COVID aid funds. John Deal was a Republican speaker who was forced out of office back in 2015. I can't believe this has been almost 10 years ago. Forced out of office in 2015 after being caught exchanging sexual texts with a 19-year-old intern. So every state lawmaker who gets hired or gets voted in and hired by the voters who gets elected, and they go in and they have to sit through one of those sexual harassment classes, it's because of John Deal now. That's part of why all that's in there now.
Try to learn that lesson.
Before they just kind of assumed that you wouldn't do that sort of. Actually, way back in the day, when my career was first starting off, and it was assumed it did happen, and you just didn't report on it because that's the way it was at the Capitol. Then they assumed you didn't do it. And then now everybody's got to do a class or something.
Well, right. It shouldn't take that. You should.
Right.
It should be just sort of an assumption that you don't behave like that. But unfortunately, that's not.
Yeah. So, and that has nothing to do with him. He actually says he should be spared jail because it wasn't that bad, and he paid back the money already.
Okay. Well,
that's his argument.
Well, I mean, I guess I wouldn't expect a different one.
Right.
But
it's interesting to see whether he's going to go to prison or not.
It is.
Yeah. All right, Medicaid funding to the state of Minnesota being temporarily halted over all of the fraud concerns.
Vice President J.D. Vance announced that the federal government would suspend some Medicaid funding to Minnesota as part of what he described as an aggressive crackdown on misuse of public funds. The Trump administration has launched an effort to root out fraud across the country, including in Minneapolis, where there are allegations of fraud involving daycare centers run by Somali residents. On Tuesday, President Trump said Vance would spearhead a national war on fraud. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Okay, so what's the over-under on how fast some federal judge somewhere is going to put a stop to the halting of the funding?
12 hours.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I guarantee you the suit's being filed today.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting about these funds? It's not fun. The vendors have already been paid, so this is just to the state. It's just the state that's going to be basically held up until it can basically get its stuff together and say, this is how we're going to address this. I mean, in theory, they should want to have a plan in place,
you
right?
would think so, yes. And if they oppose it, well, you would ask the question why, and we could do that mental exercise, but we all know why.
Right.
Yeah. All right. The Senate held a confirmation hearing for Surgeon General nominee Casey Means on Wednesday. The nominee says she wants more investigations into whether vaccines cause autism.
Until we have a clear understanding of why kids are developing this at higher rates, I think we should not leave any stones unturned.
So she's faced criticism for her views on vaccines and birth control. and at least 2 previous surgeons general saying she's not fit for the job. I don't know anything about Casey.
I know a lot about her.
Okay,
I read her book, Good Energy. I read it and learned a ton from it.
So tell me your impression then, because honestly, I truly am completely agnostic on her because I know nothing about her.
Well, I mean, she is trained. She went all the way through medical school. She left at the very, very end of her residency because she felt like the system was not serving patients. Instead, it was set up basically to work against patients. And so she has a very holistic view of how people should stay healthy and what the best way for that is. And a lot of it has to do with what we're consuming and what we're putting into our body. You don't have to agree with everything, her opinion on everything, but she's got some really interesting insights into things, and she has the training. So I'm ecstatic that she is up for this job. I really want to go back and read her book again. I got a lot.
What's the name of the
book? It's
called
again? Good Energy.
Good Energy by Casey Means.
Yeah, and it's basically like gets down to things at the molecular level as far as like how our bodies are reacting to what we're putting into them and what's in our environment and that sort of thing. And it's very informative, even if you ultimately draw a different conclusion.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, like I said, because I'm
a big fan.
There's so much that's going on, and I'm like, I don't know anything about this person.
Yeah, I mean, it ties in with the whole Maha approach to things.
Yeah, that I could tell. Yeah,
right. Yeah. And I mean, that's how I first got introduced to her, was because I heard Kennedy talking about her and her brother Callie, and so I read up on it, and then I was like, well, this is really informative, and it made a big difference in my world.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let's talk AI for a second here. As the U.S. and China compete for AI dominance, one of the biggest artificial intelligence companies is warning that China is winning the race. Yep. OpenAI is warning that Beijing is advancing their AI 10 times faster than the U.S. and is calling on the U.S. to expand our energy capacity by 100 gigawatts annually for more AI development in order just to keep pace with China. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum was on Fox and Friends, and he says it's critical that the U.S. win the AI race.
This is going to be a productivity gain. This is going to help us cure cancer. This is going to help us provide a tutor for every student. I mean, the miracle of being able to take electricity for the first time in history and turn it into intelligence, way different than using electricity for light or heat.
I still, even though we know AI is has changed, is changing, will change the world, I don't know that we've all collectively gotten our minds around just how huge of a world changer this is.
I'm getting a glimmer of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it obviously there's an incentive on the part of the company to say, hey, we got to keep up, because that benefits them. So I don't know how much stock you put in it, but and I don't know how you keep up with it, because isn't AI basically supposed to be spawning itself? So what is it that we're supposed to be doing to develop it?
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, we're building what it's like. Whose construction of the future world is going to win out?
We're feeding the beast. We're not, it's already there. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, Blues are back on the ice tonight as the season resumes after the Olympics. They're at home. They play the Kraken at 7 o'clock. FanDuel's got that game. Let's see here. Cardinals announced their nominees for the 2026 Team Hall of Fame. Just so we're talking the Cardinals Hall of Fame here. Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina, Brian Jordan, and George Hendrick are on the ballot this time around. Fans can vote through April 17th. You can go to the Cardinals website for more information. I'm going to go out on a limb and think Pujols and Yadier Molina make it.
They should be shoo-ins.
I don't want to spoil anything or influence the vote, but I'm thinking they got a good chance.
A good chance.
Just saying.
Had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference. Stop right now before you blow us all away.
Well, there you go again, listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin. Get up, what are you?
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC. Hey guys, don't miss Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kaiser every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. where we talk about so many areas, including AI, law, and health. We have some fantastic guests on my show just about every Sunday. Don't forget, Sunday evenings at 8 p.m., Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kaiser.
Stand and Fight with Nick Schroer.
Hey, it's Nick Schroer. To preserve this nation, to preserve the experiment in liberty that our founders envisioned, we must take a stand and fight.
Stand and Fight with Nick Schroer. Sunday nights at 6.
Only on News Talk STL.
Don't paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Never paint again with Rhino Shield. Listen to what a couple of happy customers have to say.
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted. Our building was really faded. You came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
What a wonderful job they did. It's beautiful. They were very thoughtful, kind, considerate guys. Appreciate all the work that these two young men did.
Call Rhino Shield, 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli.
And Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Vic.
Ken and I are on every Monday through Friday here on News Talk STL. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Whoosh, my morning people.
Okay, some activists are upset that police in Missouri are willing to, what's the term for it, enforce the law.
How dare they?
Yeah. Okay, it's a little more complicated than that. Channel 4, Lauren Traeger did a boy, it's like a 4.5 minute story on this on the news last night, which, by the way, for television news, that's a huge chunk of your
That's
newscast.
an eternity, yeah.
Yeah, that really is. So let me give you the kind of the basics, and then I want to I'll let you hear parts of this report, because I thought she did a very good job of not taking a position and balancing, both sides of the thing, which is all we can ask of somebody who's a reporter. And so here's what's going on is Channel 4's got the story, ICE offering local police cars, cash, and training to help enforce immigration law. Advocates fear profiling and over-policing. So you see where this is going on this. So essentially, and we'll get into the actual term here in a second, is that ICE in particular has a program where if a local police department signs a contract with them, essentially we're going to pay to train the officer. We may even subsidize that officer's salary. We'll get you the equipment that's needed. And then they're going to be federally authorized to make certain arrests and take certain immigration actions without waiting for ICE to get there from whatever regional office they're in.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an argument that this is an efficiency thing.
Right.
It's also an argument that it's simply increasing the reach of federal law enforcement to where more enforcement, law enforcement agencies can do it. Now, Jerome brought up an interesting question about this a little bit earlier that, honestly, I didn't think of. And if anybody in the room should have thought of it, it should have been me, because you remember the MIAC controversy about 20 years ago, where there were these fusion centers and local, federal, and state police were all like cooperating with these MIAC fusion centers. Well, but at the time, they were targeting conservative and libertarian organizations. I was actually hired to be the lead PR guy pushing back against that.
Oh.
So I actually have a little bit of experience in those things. They say they didn't happen, but I still think they're out there myself. But that's what I think.
Well, I'm just concerned about the blending between a federal agency and then local law enforcement, especially because DHS has such a narrow, specific goal, but also sometimes has a little bit of a different protocol or legal codes that they abide by than local or state police would. And I'm not familiar if they said specifically if it's going to be state police or city police.
This is going to be local here.
Okay, so this would be local. So this would be a blend of essentially federal authority and federal law enforcement protocols at a local level. And there's something about the blending and the balance between that just doesn't sit right with me for some reason.
Yeah, it's like where you cross the line between cooperation and efficiency into an improper blending. And the other thing that I would be a little concerned about, as much as I favor law enforcement and enforcing our immigration laws, is are you building in incentives inappropriately? Like, we all kind of have the running joke about, oh, it's the end of the month, it's ticket quota time, like they got to get a start. You know, if there's monetary reward tied to certain behavior, is that going to incentivize more of that behavior even when it's not justified?
Okay, just to point out, I did not send you this story before.
You did not?
Because there's a reference to that.
Well,
in the story.
I mean, even the subtitle kind of implied it about over policing, but that's where my mind goes. As much as I favor policing, I agree there could be some peril there.
Okay, well, let's get to, I grabbed a few different parts of Lauren's story on this. So here's kind of the basic, and they start off the story, by the way, showing a traffic stop in Creve Coeur, which is, by the way, does not have one of these contracts. And the police officer, and turns out he's an illegal alien. Lauren referred to him as an illegal alien. They found out that he was in the country illegally. He'd been deported. He'd come back illegally. They contacted ICE. He was arrested for driving without a license, and ICE came and got him. And that's how they started off the story, and then they get into the basic facts of the story here.
A reality in St. Louis is what we like to call at MICA the police to ICE pipeline.
Alicia Hernandez with the local immigration organization, the MICA Project, says while St. Louis has not yet seen a massive surge in immigration enforcement like other major cities, there has been an increase in the region's local police initiating immigration action.
In our region, based on the data from the Rapid Response Line, 90% of our callers fall into ICE custody starting at a traffic stop. And so police are cooperating with ICE.
That is something new. That's different.
Yeah, and so there is something called a 287G agreement, which is a contract between a federal, a law enforcement agency and ICE.
A 287G agreement, which allows, quote, state and local law enforcement officers the authority to perform specified immigration officer functions under ICE's direction and oversight.
It emboldens the departments to act on behalf of ICE.
Though the contracts have been around for a long time, Hernandez says one never existed before in Missouri. Now, First Alert 4 Investigates has learned 44 have so far been signed by agencies all over the Show Me State.
Now, it doesn't look like there are any in St. Louis County, nor are there any, obviously, in the city. But there are several in the region itself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I would be interested in what the data shows as far, they said these 287G agreements have been around for a long time, even if not employed here in Missouri.
Right.
But I would like to see what the data shows in terms of the actual effectiveness of it. Are we seeing situations where there are improper stops, or there's what, I'm just going to simplify it and call it over policing going on, or is it working the way it's intended to work?
Right.
Because if it's already been in practice for a long time, that should tell us whether this is really a threat to be concerned about, or this is a good opportunity to help our law enforcement agencies at all levels work in cooperation.
Well, the other issue, though, is that even if it's been on the books for quite a while, it may not have been enforced the same way. I mean, I think that whoever's in control of that mechanism also needs to be considered with this because, for example, ICE agents currently cannot pull you over if you have expired license plates, as is a proud St. Louis tradition to do so.
That's a pure policing thing.
It's a way of life here.
Yes, but
and Jerome's become one of us. I'm just saying.
Wow. Way to throw me under
to rat out your...
I park right behind you at the thing. It cracks me up. I'm on your side.
Snitches get... Anyways. But when it comes to local law enforcement, they absolutely can pull you over for an expired license plate. And
yes, they can.
And I don't want this to sound like I'm defending illegal immigrants by any means, but at that point, if there is a police officer that notices that and just so happens to also have DHS authority, now they can start demanding papers. Now they can...
Sure.
And I don't...
Well, that's exactly the point of this, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
And so it's just... If it was the DOJ and the FBI also saying, well, we need local police officers to do some of our responsibilities, would that also be... I mean, you know what I'm saying? Is that it seems like it could be... If we start to really set a precedent that this is okay, then whoever could be in power later on, is that going to just keep expanding to the point where it's local law enforcement with federal authorities being the norm?
No, I understand the concern. I mean, I think every way you're looking at this, you have to make sure that constitutional, safeguards are in place. Thank you. I need more coffee. And that people's rights aren't being violated. But let's take the agreement out of it. let's say there is no agreement. Police officer happens to notice someone with expired tags and pulls them over. They're within their authority to do that. Right? Would you agree? I mean, it might be an inconvenience.
It's
but
happened to me. I was a little late a few years ago. I got
Right.
a ticket.
I mean,
I got one in U City.
I think I have. I don't know if I have for that or not. But I mean, we would agree that if and if they pull the person over and then the person is not speaking English to them and appears to maybe not have a valid license, what should their next step be?
Well, to my understanding, with local law enforcement, is you would be given a citation or a ticket of some sort.
But they should do nothing with that information that tells them this person probably isn't here legally.
That's where I'm conflicted.
See, by the way, that Creve Coeur one, he when he admitted he didn't have a license, he asked the guy, he goes, are you in the country illegally? And the guy admitted yes. And that's when the arrest was made for driving without a license. And then they contacted ICE.
And this is going to be anecdotal, so I understand what you're saying, and I do, like I said, I do agree. I want the illegals to be taken out of here. But let's say you forgot your purse or your wallet, and then your ID's not on you, and you don't have another way of verifying who you are. So it doesn't necessarily matter what language you're speaking. You can't prove that you're a citizen in that movement. Would that then open a Pandora's box and say, well, we have to detain you at an ICE facility so we can process you and confirm you're an actual citizen or not?
It's fair to ask those questions, Jerome. I will tell you that I'm not overly concerned about that becoming the issue. And I do think I'm one of those people that I see both arguments, and I feel like there's got to be a sweet spot in the middle of it. I do think the agencies where you've got local and state law enforcement, declining to in any way cooperate with the federal government is a big problem, which is what we've ended up seeing in places like Minneapolis. So I don't know.
Because they weren't asking local police to go in and make arrest of illegal aliens.
No.
They were asking them to stop people who were illegally
basically crowd control.
Yeah, right, crowd control, yeah.
So
and traffic control.
That's why I'm saying, I mean, I want to see the data. I want to see if, as long as these programs have been in place, are we seeing instances of the kind of concern you're raising coming up like regularly, or is it overall working the way it's designed to work? That's what I would like to know.
Here's a little more information from Lauren Traeger's report on KMOV.
The federal government now offering major financial incentives for agencies who sign up, including money for equipment, new vehicles, and reimbursement of the full salary and benefits of local police trained by ICE. Officers are eligible for monetary performance awards based on locating illegal aliens and overall assistance to further ICE's mission.
Is that a concern?
It is a concern. We are seeing racial profiling. We're seeing over-policing.
Okay, I've got one, and she does a response with the other side on this here in just a second, but that's what you were referring to a little bit earlier.
Yeah, and that right there that's where it starts getting into the not so sure about that. And I also would like to know what they define as racial profiling.
Well, I looked up the Micah Project's website, and they toe the line with the words they're using. If you look in between the lines, they're a pro-illegal alien legal advocacy group.
Right, but I mean, are you talking about this person looks furry,
right,
so I'm going to pull them over?
Go get the brown people. They were driving while brown.
Or are you talking about you're interacting with someone and there's a language barrier, or there's an
to somebody on the left, even looking at evidence in front of you could be considered racial profiling. Was on the right, we're like, okay, well, there are clues.
Right. I mean, if you're going after the person simply because of how they look or whatever, that's one thing. But if you're encountering them and that raises questions to you, that's different.
Which the Creve Coeur traffic stop that they start, I mean, it looked like a case study in the right way to do it. And as again, Creve Coeur does not have one of these agreements on here. So let me grab one more clip from this story from Lauren Traeger.
There are some people concerned that these agreements could increase like racial profiling by local police.
No. Not in my opinion anyway. Not in my department. It's not going to make a difference.
Washington County Sheriff Scott Reed signed a 287G agreement at the end of January.
When one of our guys make a traffic stop and there's a person there of questionable citizenship, then we can take care of it right there.
A benefit, he says, to free up his officers who used to have to wait for ICE agents to drive from St. Louis.
It's also a benefit that, I mean, we're going to end up with a car out of the thing, and right now, vehicles are fairly expensive, if you hadn't noticed.
As for paying the salaries of the two deputies getting trained, he says he doesn't even think that will ultimately happen. There's no timetable either, he says, on when they'll receive the other financial incentives.
Getting a car out of the deal? What's he talking about?
Meaning that the program is going to fund or provide them with another patrol car.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
My brain thought he was talking about like seizing possession of the car of the person that they pulled over.
No, the feds. Part of the deal is that the feds provide equipment.
I'm not a big fan of civil or asset forfeiture.
Oh no, I hate civil asset forfeiture. I think we're on the same page on that one. This is like equipment funded by.
I
the feds.
gotcha.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
So yeah, you got some thoughts on that? Let me know. The Channel 4, it's on their YouTube page, probably on their social media too, but I found it on the YouTube page. I thought Lauren did a really nice balanced job with the story. So you want to check it out? I mean, listen, there's on the right, we want the illegals caught and to face the music.
Removed from the country.
We also, want to make sure that we restrain law enforcement here so that it's staying within constitutional bounds as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's the burden of having a libertarian streak in me, a constitutionalist streak in me.
Yes, liberty needs to be upheld at every opportunity, and you need to send me your 80s bump music.
Which you're free to do.
Which you're free to do at every opportunity that you have. Freedom! Yes. So this week's theme is those victory songs, those America songs, those songs that really get you pumped up and make you feel powerful. If your team just won in a blowout match, and this would be the song that you want to hear them play over the loudspeakers. So send that to me.
What's your drinking song if you're drinking Canadian tears?
Yes, I love it. Songs to make the Canadians cry harder. Send them to me at Jerome at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Sorry, Janet.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
He picked the wrong schoolyard to come into, I have to tell you this.
On NewsTalk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shane Scott with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking clearing skies as the day goes on, highs towards the mid-50s. Big story, though, Friday and Saturday, temperatures well above average, 70 degrees, mostly sunny Friday. Saturday, a little chillier, back towards the mid-60s, still warm. Then Saturday night could see some isolated chances of showers. Before Sunday, rain switches over to a possible wintry mix as we head towards the evening overnight hours. That'll continue until Monday, then switching back over to rain. More potential for a mix into Tuesday morning. From First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shane Scotch.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Bunny Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Bunny Radio every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeBunnyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
The far left wants to destroy conservative values in America.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Hey, this is Carl Higbee, host of Frontline on Newsmax TV, and you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Did you guys see that video of that 18-wheeler going the wrong way?
I sure did.
Holy cow. Okay, so
right where that was.
There's a lot of layers to this here because the reports are saying this was in our listing area.
Oh, yeah.
Just barely north of Troy.
Yes.
On 61.
It was.
Okay, so there's a lot of layers to peel back. It's not even just as simple as the awful video that we saw. I want to get into that here in just a moment here because I'm trying to confirm the story and do my due diligence on all the stuff we talk about, and I can't find it anywhere except the U.S. Secretary of Transportation confirmed it.
I can show you the original video.
Oh, I've seen the video. I've seen the video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole line of the videos.
Right. But what the guy who shot the video says he is, where it is. I also found another case.
Oh, you can see it on the road. You can see where it is on the road. You can see the road signs.
But what I'm saying is like, do we have confirmation that it really did happen Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever it was? We got the guy who shoots the video, all the basic stuff, but I couldn't find any reports on any credible news source from it anywhere. But the Secretary of Transportation goes, yeah, it happened here, it happened on this day. So that's part of what I want to peel back a little bit as well on this. So, and we know it happened. There's all these other details that I just find fascinating, which I'll get into in just a moment here. But of course, we want to stay up to date on what's happening, obviously, around the world and around the country as well. That's where redstate.com comes in. So, Susie, what should we check out today?
This is the Red State Rundown.
First and foremost, we have from our newest writer, Ben Smith, an article titled "Former U.S. Air Force Major Arrested for Training Chinese Military Pilots."
Oh,
yeah, that's a problem. Now, there's not a lot that we know.
Is he buddies with Eric Swalwell?
It doesn't say that. There's no reference to Fang Fang. We don't know. His name's Gerald Eddie Brown Jr. He's 65 years old, and he was taken into custody in Jeffersonville, Indiana recently. We don't know a whole lot more about it, but Ben details what we do know in this article, and yeah, it's a problem.
Okay, so I made a wisecrack about Eric Swalwell. Can I say it? Can I say my joke? Do I get to do that now?
Do it.
Because I brought up Eric Swalwell because he had a bang-bang with Fang Fang. Okay, sorry.
Are you 12?
Yes.
Okay. Next up, we have from our managing editor, Jennifer Van Laar. This is a big story that broke yesterday. The FBI raid of the LAUSD superintendent, reportedly part of a securities fraud prosecution of an AI startup CEO. The superintendent of LAUSD. His home, the offices of LAUSD, and his home in Florida were raided by the FBI yesterday.
Yeah, I saw the headlines for that. I mean, this is one of the largest public school systems in the country.
It might be the largest. Yeah. And it seems to be something white collar related. We don't know all the details, but Jen, of course, has been digging in because this is right up her alley. So check out Jennifer's reporting on that.
Are you suggesting there might be corruption in a public school system somewhere?
I am.
What?
I am.
I have to check out that article.
I am.
Inconceivable.
Right. Well, we've got one more Jennifer story, but this is Jennifer Oliver O'Connell. Speaking of Casey Means.
Yes.
She's got an article up, Dr. Casey Means under the microscope as Trump's Surgeon General nominee is weighed in the balance. And she does a nice rundown of this. Jennifer is very well acquainted with this backstory and this movement, so this is going to be a good read on what you want to know about Casey Means.
See, I'm really interested in this because I saw the new stuff come through and I'm putting together the news dump each day. I don't know anything about Casey Means.
You might actually like her book.
It sounds like it. It sounds like I need to check it out because I've
got it in hard copy and Audible. I can bring you the hard copy.
Yeah, I'll borrow it. Yeah, and so so I'm just like I don't have an opinion because I don't know anything about her. And I like to know stuff before I come up with an opinion on it. But I knew there was a bunch of harsh back and forth on stuff, and one of the things that they went after her for, they said, "Do you even have an active medical license?"
She doesn't.
Right. She basically, and I kind of thought of you when I saw her answer because you have a law license.
Right. It's not active.
It's not active because you're not practicing law.
Correct.
And her answer was, well, no, I'm not practicing medicine, so I don't.
Maintain it.
It's inactive. And they tried to make that into a gotcha moment, and I'm like, that doesn't seem like thing. That doesn't seem like a gotcha moment.
She's not hiding what her credentials are and what her experience is. So
because if you wanted to go lawyer up stuff,
I'd have to jump through hoops, but reactivate my license.
Basically, you go fill the paperwork and pay the fee, and then you're active again.
Yeah, and I hear her tell DOJ is really looking for lawyers, so don't tell me it's not tempting.
Hey, no.
Tempting.
You stay here.
Pay a lot better than I do. Just saying.
Okay, this video is everywhere now. 18-wheeler going the wrong way. And the reports say this was on 61, just outside Troy. So, right in the middle of 94.1 territory, right here. And so I'm like, whoa, I got to do something on that. And I look, and the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, he posted about that. He retweeted, I want to say it was
Breaking 911.
Breaking 911 or Libs of TikTok or one of those. And what the Secretary says is he said, disturbing. We have learned that a truck driver with a Minnesota CDL who couldn't read basic road signs spent miles driving the wrong way in an 80-ton truck. Thanks to Missouri law enforcement, this dangerous trucker is now out of service. FMCSA, federal something, I don't know.
Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act.
Thank you.
Administration.
Is also investigating the carrier, Cargo Transportation LLC. We will not stop until America's roads are safe again for families. And by the way, it turns out Cargo Transportation LLC is based out of where?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. So the Secretary of Transportation confirms that this happened. Now, remember, whenever I see the videos and stuff that appear to be clear as day, I have learned go double and triple check anyway, because we know that the truck went the wrong way. I'm like, okay, but was that in Missouri? Was it this week? Because I did a Google search, and it turns out there was another wrong way semi-driver in Missouri about 28 days ago where law enforcement literally crashed into it to stop him from hurting other people. I just want to make sure the stories weren't mixed up. But no, looks like according to the secretary, this happened this week, like here.
Right. And my first attention to it was brought to me by our friend Becky Noble.
Yeah.
She saw the original video from the guy who posted the video. She posted just the original video, and I'm like, well, how do we know? And I asked the questions, and I went to the guy's timeline, and he's got in line like 10 different videos that it's clear he's posting them the day that, like, if you follow along his thread, unless he's just a complete, hoaxer, which there's no indication of that.
Right.
It details, and you can see the progression. He's following the truck. He watches the truck be stopped. He's doing all these things, and it's documented kind of in real time.
Right.
So that lends credibility to the situation.
Right. Yeah. Then to me, the biggest question is, okay, when was it? That sort of thing. But then the Secretary of Transportation. Now, it's also, I just think, fascinating. No credible news sources have it covered that I can see here in the air. I mean, nothing.
I'm willing to bet our local television stations will be on it today.
I would hope so, because I saw nothing this morning.
But you can see exactly where it is.
Oh, yeah.
I'm familiar with this stretch of road. The fact that he was on that highway going southbound in the northbound lanes for about 3.5 miles and did not cause an accident is a complete miracle.
And there you saw, there were plenty of cars that were, I'm sure a lot of, like,
there
jolts.
was a truck that went the other way that passed him honking.
Yeah.
They were like another 18-wheeler.
Yeah. I've seen cars end up on the wrong way. Like, I saw one on 64 a few years ago. My mom was in visiting. We were going to go spend Sunday morning over at the old church where my dad used to pastor in Bunker Hill, just across the river. And somebody ended up on the wrong way, and we're going east on 6440. And there's somebody coming right at us. Now, it's Sunday morning.
Scary.
Yeah. And it was like, what the, and I actually jolted, and I said words in front of my mother. I probably shouldn't, especially I was already heading to church on Sunday morning. I did it. So it happens, but you're supposed to be the extra trained driver. And this is the point that one of the things that we've seen in Florida, we've seen it in California, we've seen it in New Mexico, we've seen it in Illinois, we've seen it everywhere. And now we're like, listen, this is why those problems aren't there. Those problems there mean a danger here.
Yeah. At some point, I don't know how he got on to the northbound lanes initially, but at some point, the signs aren't facing you.
Right.
There's cars coming at you. There's a yellow line to your right. And there's a whole 2 other lanes with traffic going the same way you are just across the way there. And you don't put together that you're doing the wrong thing, and you just keep driving. But
the secretary says they've confirmed he couldn't read road signs.
Well, okay. And I don't doubt that. Right. But you should be able to read roads.
You would think
so.
Like
basic driving would tell you, and if you are alert and sober and all experienced as a driver, your common sense would kick in pretty quickly. Even if you made one of those, oh my gosh, moment mistakes, you're going to realize it pretty quick. I don't know how you could not realize.
Right. I mean, has anybody here never turned the wrong way and ended up the wrong way on a one-way street?
I have.
I did once. I did.
And you realize pretty quick, and you're like, oh, bleep.
Yeah. I mean, now, fortunately for me, I did it in Columbia when I was in college, and it was one block that was one way, and so I'm like, oh, crap. And so I managed, but we've all done that. But I wasn't driving an 18-wheeler full of something.
On a highway.
On a highway.
Like when you're talking about one-way streets in the area of, like, Chicago, that's easy to do. And you're like, oh wait,
goodness,
shoot, I turned the wrong way. But
you ever driven in Boston?
I have.
Holy crap.
Yeah. This is crazy.
You ever driven in L.A.? No, you haven't. You sit in traffic and do nothing. You don't actually go anywhere.
I have.
Oh.
I've done both.
But on this one there, so this is one of those things where we hear about those. Oh, and by the way, if you zoom in on the video, the guy's on the cell phone too.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is personalizing the danger right here in the middle of Newstalk STL land.
It is.
That is why this has to be a critical priority.
Scary stuff. Speaking of scary stuff, could another disgraced Missouri politician be heading to jail? We're going to update you on that in the news dump at 6:50.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Always be yourself, unless you suck.
On Newstalk STL. St. Louis's place to talk.
Freedom of speech is one of the anchors of our society.
Newstalk STL.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on Newstalk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com. Or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Hey guys, Billy Crow here from Jeffco Patriot Radio. As we follow the important issues facing Jefferson County, if you want to stay informed on Jeffco politics, especially in this all-important midterm election year, make sure to tune in this and every Sunday at high noon here on Newstalk STL.
Jeffco Patriot Radio. If it's a big story in Jefferson County, you'll hear about it on Jeffco Patriot Radio. Sundays at noon on Newstalk STL.
Psst. Want to hear the best kept secret in St. Louis? Steph's Pizza. We're not afraid to compare squares. According to our customers, we have the best St. Louis style pizza anywhere. And we can't disagree. Dine in, pick up, or delivery in St. Peter's, St. Charles, Lake St. Louis on Fort Trail, and the original Stefanina's in O'Fallon on Veterans Memorial Parkway. Check us out at stepspizza.com. Steph's Pizza. We're not afraid to compare squares.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Have you cried yourself to sleep? Have you felt this incomplete?
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on Newstalk STL.
All right, tensions are gaining ground, and the clock is ticking on Iran. So what's going to happen next? Also, President Trump's choice for Surgeon General meets with a lot of skepticism in her confirmation hearing. And also, we find out that Susie knows a whole lot more about her than what I anticipated.
I do.
Because you like perked up when I said her
name. You know, I'm a big fan of her work. And again, you don't have to accept at face value her conclusions and opinions, but just learning the way things are broken down at the molecular level, just it was like a big light bulb moment in my life.
Right. Okay.
So
let's see. That's interesting. I don't know that I've ever heard you like use those sorts of terms before on something. Interesting. All right. And Blues back on the ice tonight. The NHL season resuming once they took that break from the Olympics. It is 6:50. Let's do another news dump, shall we?
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out. You know, I mean, they got all the news. The morning news dump.
And why did I just say it like that? News dump, like I'm a 1978 DJ or something like that.
I don't know.
I don't know why. Because it's 2 for Tuesday. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Jeez. All right. The U.S. and Iran resumed talks in Geneva, Switzerland today. President Trump openly considering military strikes on the nation, but still insisting that Iran wants to make some kind of a deal. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the conversation is focused on what they would do with weapons and development and that sort of thing.
We hope progress can be made because that's the president's preference, to make progress on the diplomatic front. But it's also important to remember that Iran refuses to talk about the ballistic missiles to us or to anyone. And that's a big problem.
Iran's supreme leader says they are not seeking a nuclear weapon, that this is all just about energy. And if you can't believe the supreme leader of Iran, then who can you believe in this world?
Pretty much anybody else?
Yeah, pretty much. All right. A former Missouri Speaker of the House could spend years in prison, 2 years or more in prison. Federal prosecutors are asking for a sentence of 21 to 27 months for John Deal. The former speaker pleaded guilty in September to wire fraud. He admitted to misusing hundreds of thousands of dollars in COVID aid funds. John Deal was a Republican speaker who was forced out of office in 2015 after being caught exchanging sexual texts with a 19-year-old intern.
Don't do that.
No, that's bad. And the weird part, it's funny because when I first got into the business, my first broadcasting jobs were in TV.
Sure.
I was just a production assistant and then kind of clawed my way up to let me run the camera. And so I remember the first time I was going to go down to the Capitol, I was in Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a little sit down at the TV station I was at. And they're like, listen, if you start covering this stuff at the Capitol, and this was, of course, back in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, you're going to see and hear stuff. Everybody there is cheating on their wife. The interns are, it was just like they made it sound like it was Caligula. Now, I don't think it was that bad, but
it might have been close.
It may have been. And so now they're really strict on all that stuff. And one of the reasons is because of what John did, getting caught with those text messages. I don't even think he actually had an affair with her.
No.
But it was bad enough. Apparently the texts were bad enough. And what did they say? I don't know. I don't want to know. I've met John Deal. I don't want to picture people like that. But.
No, I guess I was lucky because I worked at the Capitol in 1990.
Yeah.
And I was, sheltered from that, but I wasn't there all the time.
Right.
So I wasn't staying in Jeff City.
Yeah, and they were talking about the legislature, because,
That's what I worked. I worked for a state senator.
Oh, that's right. I thought you were at the AG's office.
No.
Okay, state senator. Yeah, but so I was just worried, and the whole message was, we need the relationships, keep your mouth shut.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how much the media has changed that well. Right.
Don't do that.
Yeah. All right. Medicaid funding to the state of Minnesota temporarily halted over what? Over fraud concerns.
Vice President J.D. Vance announced that the federal government would suspend some Medicaid funding to Minnesota as part of what he described as an aggressive crackdown on misuse of public funds. The Trump administration has launched an effort to root out fraud across the country, including in Minneapolis, where there are allegations of fraud involving daycare centers run by Somali residents. On Tuesday, President Trump said Vance would spearhead a national war on fraud. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Okay, the Senate holding a confirmation hearing for the president's Surgeon General nominee. Her name is Casey Means. That was on Wednesday. The nominee says she wants more investigations into whether there's a connection between vaccines and autism.
Until we have a clear understanding of why kids are developing this at higher rates, I think we should not leave any stones unturned.
Okay, so let me kind of toss it over to you because I've never heard of Casey Means before this, so I don't have an opinion on her one way or the other, but you've really dug into her background and her work.
I have. So my first introduction to her, believe it or not, was on Tucker's show, and this was back before Tucker lost his mind. Lost his mind
and decided to blame everything on the Jews.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he had RFK Jr. on, and I was interested. I was intrigued by him at that point. And this was before he'd even, I think, formally announced that he was running as a Democrat for president. But it was in the kind of build up to the 2024 presidential election, and he had him on, and it was interesting. And in the course of that conversation, they were referencing the Means siblings, Callie Means and Casey Means. And so then the next episode was them, and I watched it, and I was intrigued by what they were talking about. This was a holistic approach to not just medicine, but nutrition, and recognizing that the fuel we're putting in our body is that. It's fuel, and depending on what it's comprised of, has a humongous effect on us. And we live in an era where we, consume junk food and fast food without really giving it much thought. And as somebody who's, getting older myself and wants to maintain healthiness, I was like, okay, I haven't really thought about about the connections between all these things. It really made me think, and there aren't a lot of times where something really makes me think like that. This did. So I got her book. I read the book. I had it on Audible while I was traveling back and forth across the country. And it's very informative. And she's a very thoughtful person.
Interesting stuff there. All right. This is also interesting. The young ones are trying to learn on their own. Okay. A new report says 2/3 of Gen Zers are going online to teach themselves business skills. Yeah. They're looking up tutorials on YouTube and places like that and trying to learn skills like coding and AI and how to build and use spreadsheets and other business tools.
I've done the exact same thing. I'm Gen X.
Oh, yeah. I'm getting to that too. Yep. But here's the thing. 50% of millennials say they go online to learn skills on their own. And about 1/3 of Gen Xers report doing so as well. Now, here's the interesting thing. According to the report, over 70% of hiring managers consider self-taught skills to be legitimate, but they say it's just harder to verify because you don't have that certificate or that degree.
And you could be getting bad info. So
Right.
you have to make sure that you're, using reliable sources to educate yourself.
Yeah.
But
But it's this uptick in I'm going to do it myself and learn the skills, and I don't need no stinking school or certificate program. I mean, I'm taking an online class right now
the
on
democratization of education.
I love it. I love it. I mean, I'm taking an online class right now on sports nutrition. As well. I'm not, so I'm doing that kind of thing. It's not a business skill, but something I'm trying to learn.
Right.
As well. So this is your age group. And so maybe your cohorts in the age division aren't quite as lethargic and apathetic as sometimes we accuse them.
Well, I mean, we weren't taught nothing, so we're trying to figure out we got to figure it out somewhere.
See, that's actually, I think, the main point. I think that's the point, and I think that's a good reaction to a failed education system. All right, Blues are back on the ice tonight. They play the Kraken at Enterprise, 7 o'clock puck drop. FanDuel has the game. Cardinals won 6-0 over the Mets on Wednesday. Nolan Gorman had a 3-run home run in the third inning. Redbirds host the Astros in Jupiter this afternoon at 12:05. One in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in this country. That's the tragedy we must work to stop. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here, and that is why Reach Reproductive Health is here, to empower parents to save the lives of innocent children and to see these families come to Christ. And you can be a part of saving and changing lives. So pray and visit outreachforlife.org to learn more, volunteer, and donate. That's outreachforlife.org.
Why are you going to work? It's Sunday.
It's a brand new show on News Talk STL. JC's Sunday Showgram.
This week I'll tell you about the time Close and I were involved in something at the Atlanta airport back in the late 80s I still don't believe happened. What do you do with two giant co-stars from the same movie that hated one another so much they wouldn't even agree to do the publicity interviews in the same hotel? All brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
Sunday morning, 7 to 9. Then podcast each Monday on NewsTalkSTL.com.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with this free call. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. Amit Thomason. Secretary of State Rubio suggests the U.S. will not be taking Havana's word for it and will investigate a deadly encounter off Cuba's northern coast. Cuban authorities say a speedboat from Florida with 10 people on board tried to infiltrate the island for terrorism. 4 people fatally shot by Cuban agents. Rubio says, we're looking into it.
As it stands now, the Department of Homeland Security, the Coast Guard, others are involved. The majority of the information we still possess is what Cuban authorities are providing both the public and the U.S. government.
Cuba identifies those on the boat as Cubans who live in the U.S. Geneva, the site of the third round of U.S.-Iran nuclear talks. As those discussions take place, the Trump administration has slapped Iran with more sanctions.
The newly imposed sanctions are aimed at people and companies accused of enabling Iran's ballistic missile program, drone production, and illicit oil sales. They come as the Trump administration presses Iran to make a deal ahead of nuclear talks scheduled for Thursday in Geneva, and as the U.S. builds up its largest military presence in the region in decades. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Ukrainian President Zelensky says Russia launched a barrage of hundreds of drones and 39 missiles at Ukraine overnight. The attack came hours before U.S. and Ukrainian envoys prepare for more talks in Geneva. Zelensky says that some big sticking points remain.
Exactly result on the land, for example, on the territories, because these questions I read again and again. These questions, I think, to my mind, has to go to the level of leaders.
The war in Ukraine is now in its 5th year. Watching Wall Street, the Dow futures are up 71 points, while the NASDAQ futures are 2 points in the red, S&P futures 4 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
If you're like most Americans nearing retirement with money in a 401k or IRA, then listen carefully. The U.S. dollar is under pressure. Foreign nations are reducing reliance on the dollar, and some analysts are openly warning about the long-term stability of U.S. currency dominance. Whether you call it currency debasement or the collapse of the dollar, the risk is real. And when confidence in the U.S. dollar shifts, gold and silver historically respond. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000 to get your free gold investment kit. You'll also receive a free copy of Ken Rogoff's book, Our Dollar, Your Problem. Most American retirement accounts are dramatically underallocated to precious metals, even as central banks continue buying gold at record levels. Many Americans are rolling over a portion of their retirement savings into physical gold and silver, tax and penalty-free with Advantage Gold. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000. Results vary. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shane Scott with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking clearing skies as the day goes on, highs towards the mid-50s. Big story, though, Friday and Saturday, temperatures well above average, 70 degrees, mostly sunny Friday. Saturday, a little chillier, back towards the mid-60s, still warm. Then Saturday night could see some isolated chances of showers before Sunday. Rain switches over to a possible wintry mix as we head towards the evening overnight hours. That'll continue until Monday, then switching back over to rain. More potential for a mix into Tuesday morning. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shane Scotch.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Tim Jones here from my great friends at Comprehensive Chiropractic, the premier chiropractic and sports performance facility in the region. How do I know? Simply put, they've helped me on many occasions. Here's another solution to your everyday aches and pains. The Studio Health and Wellness Center. Services include Pilates and yoga, both with certified instructors. I can also highly recommend the massage therapy, which is not an indulgence. It's a proven method of healing and restoration. Trust my friends at Comprehensive Chiropractic in Eureka. cchiropractic.com. That's cchiropractic.com.
Hey, when pests invade your home, you need someone you can trust. It's Jamie Allman here, and at Buckingham Pest Control, they're not just your exterminators. They're your neighbors and friends. A locally owned family business and St. Louis Magazine A-List award winner, providing affordable, quality pest control. Plus, they offer energy-efficient TAP attic insulation, the only insulation that controls pests. BuckinghamPestControl.com. That's BuckinghamPestControl.com.
Mike Ferguson.
I'm a stud. I'm ballsy. I don't take no from anyone.
Susie Moore.
I disagree on his assessment of the situation.
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice. drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, putting people to work and cutting taxes. Who can complain about that other than a leftist?
Right.
I
You
would say
answered your own question.
I would say nobody could complain about that. Well, some people are going to find a way to complain about that. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of moving and shaking in the Missouri legislature. Is it about to sort of bust loose? Because we're getting to that point of the legislature where traditionally I start going, okay, the halftime is in, spring break is in sight. We want to know the update on the really big stuff that we've been promised. Because in the past, we get to that halfway point, which is still weeks away, don't get me wrong, and it's not there, and then all of a sudden you start to hear excuses like,
Time's running out.
Time's starting to run out. Maybe not, and we're not putting up with that crap this year.
Nope.
We're just not doing it. And I don't know if there's anybody who knows the ins and outs of the Capitol quite the way that our own Tim Jones does. So he joins us right now. So, Tim, I want to get to this new radio show here in a minute because I'm, one, excited about it, two, jealous that I'm not part of it. But we'll get to that in just a second. That's launching from News Talk STL. Let's start with the Medicaid thing because, I've seen a couple of stories on this. The Missouri Independent, follow them on Blue Sky, lamenting how hard it's going to be on people and some other reports on it. But we're talking about actually requiring some work in order to get some benefits, some government benefits. What's the status of that?
Well, Mike, Susie, Jerome, good morning, and thanks for having me back, of course. Yeah, so 2 weeks until spring break, which is the sort of unofficial halfway point of the legislature. But honestly, if you look at the calendar, I believe actually this week is the technical halfway point. So when we get back from spring break, there will only be 8 weeks left in the legislative session. And considering that we started in very, very early January this year, there will be much less time on the backside of spring break than what we're in right now. So, yes, time for the rubber to hit the road. And one of those proposals, Mike, that definitely needs to make it all the way through the process is the one you just mentioned, Representative Darren Chappell's, member of the Freedom Caucus, proposal to put on the ballot the question as to whether or not the Democratic Bill Clinton proposal of the 1990s of Medicaid work requirements should be implemented in our Missouri Constitution. I guess we're going to see once again, Mike, on another issue, how far the Democrats have fallen from sanity, because I am sure that they will yell and scream about this and try to kill it in the Senate. It has, I believe, been third read and passed out of the House. I think it has last week. So amazing work, yeoman's work by Representative Darren Chappell, who understands the state budget better than anyone. So I want people to understand Darren's not coming at this from any kind of draconian position or, I don't want people to have the social safety net. The opposite is true. Darren Chappell is trying to preserve the social safety net because the people were lied to. Everybody thinks these ballot propositions are the voice of the people and the people speaking. No, the people are generally being lied to on these ballot propositions that are being funded by out-of-state, foreign, in many cases, foreign left-wing billionaires. Medicaid expansion several years ago in Missouri did not expand Medicaid in any way for the poor, the disabled, pregnant women, foster children. They were already in the program at 100%, so you really can't expand it more than that. Medicaid expansion in Missouri expanded to able-bodied, working-age Missourians. Why? Because the left wants everyone to get rid of their private health insurance and get on the government dole. So Darren Chappell's proposal is to try to rein some of that excessive, ridiculous spending in and require work requirements. Sounds pretty sensible, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Tim. I mean, is there really heavy pushback from anybody other than the Democrats?
From every single Democrat. And the problem with that, Susie, and you would say, well, they're in the super minority, which they are. But in the Missouri Senate, like on the federal level, the Democrats in the Senate, just like the Republicans in our state Senate, everyone in the state Senate in Missouri has the unfettered filibuster power. Now, unlike the lazy butts up there in D.C., in Missouri, we actually do have the talking filibuster requirement. So at least there's that. You do actually have to get up and try to prove you have to actually discuss your insanity and why you're doing these things. But we do have the filibuster, and with the thing that we don't have, the DC does, we have limited time, right? Our sessions actually stop and start. And so things that don't get done this year, by the middle of May are dead until next year when they have to start all over again.
Okay, so I want to hone in on that because unfortunately, we have predicted in years past there's going to be a big game that's talked about. Republicans are going to say we're trying, and then oh gosh darn it, we ran out of time, and we'll try again next year. Give me campaign money and elect me again, even though some of the big things weren't delivered. Now, I sincerely believe that the Republican leadership and the rank and file, they want to get these tax reforms and tax cuts done. Tim, there is no excuse to not get it done. And anything that says, well, gosh darn it, we just ran out of time, that's not going to hold water with voters. Now, Republicans realistically are not going to lose control of the legislature on this. But where are we with getting something big and transformative done? Because that's what we've been promised throughout the entire 2024 campaign. And that's what we've been promised since this legislature and the governor assumed office.
Well, Mike, as usual, my old Missouri House is going to do the work that needs to be done. And trust me, it's not all puppy dogs and roses over in the Missouri House. They have their own set of issues. But the one thing they traditionally do is churn out quite a few legislative vehicles. And they have done that already. They've passed over 30 bills over to the Senate. I believe that the tax cut proposal that we've been discussing, that is a ballot. That is a constitutional ballot proposal that will be put on the ballot this year if it passes both chambers, to ask the people, to ask all of us if we would like to finally modernize our tax code and eliminate our state income tax. I believe that that will get out of the House. The problem is, once again, in the Senate. Mike, do you remember like 5 minutes ago when the media and the establishment were rending their garments and pulling their hair out because the Freedom Caucus was engaging in an early session filibuster to try and get IP reform on the ballot?
Yep.
Remember all that?
Yeah.
Well, did you guys know that the Democrats have been filibustering on and off since the beginning of session almost every single day in the Senate, and no one has hardly made a peep about it in the media?
But that's different. That's different.
Those poor Democrats. They should have their day in the sun. Well, they've had every single day in the sun. They've been slowing the process down. So, as I said, the House has churned out a lot of great legislative vehicles addressing property tax issues, passing this constitutional amendment regarding work requirements for Medicaid, passed a bill to try and solve this video lottery terminal mess. So the House has passed some significant, complex, important pieces of legislation, but Democrats in the Senate who are butthurt about the fact that we got back to business as usual last session and moved the previous question on, oh my goodness, two Republican priorities during session, and then we had the special session. Democrats killed everything else in the Senate, right? But the Republican leadership and the Freedom Caucus demanded that we get at least two of these things done. We put the initiative petition for Amendment 3, the new Amendment 3 on the ballot. We dialed back the insanity of the minimum wage situation hike that is just going to crush small businesses and not provide kids more opportunities. And then during the special session, we put the initiative petition reform matter on the ballot as well. So, that's what Democrats are mad that conservative Republican priorities are being supported and passed by a conservative Republican supermajority.
Tim, I have a question for you.
Yes.
If the shoe were on the other foot, if the Democrats held the majority to the same degree that the Republicans did, and the Democrats in the Senate were pushing through they would push through their priorities. There wouldn't be this kowtowing to the minority for the filibuster.
100%.
So what is holding the Republicans back? Who is holding the Republicans back?
Boy.
Is
Seminar
that a dangerous
for
question?
another day. The establishment, the uniparty. We have the things that all I want people to understand. All of the issues that you all discuss every day and all the complaints and the problems that we have with dysfunctional DC exist here as well on the state level. They really do. We got the big giant professional swamp in Washington, D.C., and we have 50 junior swamps all across the country. It's just as bad. You have all of the milquetoast moderates on the state level that you do in D.C. I'm sorry, the current Speaker of the House, John Patterson, nice guy. He's fun to play golf with. He's been a horrible speaker. He's pro-choice. He's voted for the transgender ideology bills, right? He gets an F minus on social conservative issues, and on fiscal issues, I give him maybe a C plus. He's kind of let his conservative friends run those with a little less leash, but he's been horrible. So he's really gummed up the works the last few years, because I should know speakers have a lot of power. And when you have a conservative leaning speaker, things hum along rather well in the House and you move conservative priorities. When you don't, things get kind of cattywampus and sideways. And then in the Senate, it's the same situation. If you allow, in the Senate, they've largely allowed the tyranny of the minority to control the supermajority. I don't know ultimately why, other than it's a lot easier to paraphrase Stephen Miller, the senior advisor to the president, when he was talking about Minnesota Somali fraud a few weeks ago. It's just a lot easier to govern over an empire of ash than it is to do the hard work of the consent of the governed. It's a lot easier to bend to the swamp, do what the lobbyists want, not do a lot of the tough stuff. And that's why there's a Freedom Caucus, to demand that the supermajority, the Republican supermajority, actually act like it year in and year out.
All right, we're visiting with Tim Jones. Tim, I just got a minute or so left here. But speaking of the Freedom Caucus, new radio show launching this week, based out of News Talk STL right here. I got to tell you, I'm excited about the show, and like I said earlier, I'm jealous that I wasn't, I didn't get to be a part of it, to be real honest. So tell me what's launching this week, and because this is not just Missouri Freedom Caucus, this is looking at the country.
Yeah, and Mike, you know what? You just might have that opportunity, because they can only wind me up and put me back and forth in the News Talk STL closet so much during the week.
I'm just saying is that that I ended my syndicated show several months ago.
Yes, and so every once in a while I might want to have a break or two. So we'll be happy. We'll be happy to put you in that picture. And Susie, yeah, no, this is exciting, because I think you all will have the opportunity to participate in this, because this is occurring here. This is a News Talk STL production. So our owners, Jeff and Joe, they were very excited to be asked by the State Freedom Caucus Network. Folks, if you have no idea what that is, that's basically the mothership of the Missouri Freedom Caucus and the 14 other Freedom Caucuses across the land. Mike, the State Freedom Caucus Network didn't exist 5 years ago. Right. Kind of a similar track and story to what we have launched here at News Talk STL. Didn't exist 5 years ago. Now has 15 Freedom Caucuses. Yes, we are affiliated. We're under the kind of general umbrella of the U.S. House Freedom Caucus, which is also really exciting, because that continues to keep me in touch with my very good friend, Congressman Eric Burleson from Missouri, member of the House Freedom Caucus. So State Freedom Caucus, the State Freedom Caucus Network said, we got the state director, Tim Jones. He does this radio thing. Let's talk to him about that. And that's basically how the idea was born. So every Sunday evenings, live at 7 p.m., we will have a new episode of Freedom Caucus Unfiltered, and it will feature yours truly and my lovely and talented co-host, Chairman Nick Schroer. Senator Schroer will be helping me herd the cats on that program, and we're so excited to launch this Sunday. It'll be available right here on News Talk STL, on the News Talk STL app, and there'll also be some other platforms of the Freedom Caucus that will be promoting this as well. State Freedom Caucus Network has their own X feed and Facebook. So do all the State Freedom Caucuses. You're going to be able to find this program anywhere and everywhere. And our first guest this week will be the one and only Mark Meadows, the godfather of the U.S. House Freedom Caucus, former chief of staff to President Donald Trump, and he now runs the Conservative Partnership Institute with the godfather of the Tea Party, Senator Jim DeMint. So we're really excited to have Mark Meadows on the first episode of Freedom Caucus Unfiltered right here on News Talk STL this Sunday, 7 o'clock.
All right. Thanks, Tim. We'll talk to you again soon. Obviously, we'll be listening this afternoon.
Thanks, gang. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tim. Hey, I know we just had Lincoln Days, statewide Lincoln Days, but we got another fun event coming up very soon, the St. Charles County Lincoln Trump Dinner. Join the St. Charles County Republican Central Committee for a great night of speeches, food, and fun, all to support the Republican Party in St. Charles County. It's Friday, March 20th at Old Hickory Golf Club in St. Peters. Just go to stcharlesgop.com for more info.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I like it, but they're going a little overboard with the dancing.
On News Talk STL. Colombo and Company.
Negotiations with Iran back underway despite rising tensions in the Middle East. We'll discuss the latest Thursday. Plus, Missouri Senator Nick Schroer, Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire, and Dr. Randy Tolbert.
Live and local weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, it's good to see you.
Two sounds that can wreck your sleep. A drip and a toilet that won't stop running.
Drip, drip, all night.
Good news. We're doing plumbing now. Same folks, same care, same we do it right.
Leaky faucet, running toilet.
Or a stubborn clog, call Grasser.
Electric and plumbing, the Grasser way.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
Are you a proud American? Then join us for the Lincoln Trump Dinner, March 20th at Old Hickory Golf Club in St. Peters, hosted by the St. Charles County Republican Central Committee. The evening features a VIP reception, dinner and program with live music by the Comparito Trio. Register online at stcharlesgop.com. Don't miss this celebration of America's 250th year, the Lincoln Trump Dinner. See you March 20th.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
The Democrat Party is going to have to go back toward the center.
News, analysis, and opinion.
I've never called a talk show before, but this just irked me.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, Chris Arp from the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. Make sure that you're listening to our show this afternoon from 4 to 6. Now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
Okay, so there's C-SPAN for Congress and other political events.
Right.
And there's C-SPAN 2 and 3 and all that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Should there be like a Mo-SPAN of sorts for the Missouri Senate?
Why not?
Yeah. Apparently, most of the state legislatures around the country have some sort of live stream.
We've seen clips. I mean,
Right.
That's not unusual at all.
And the Missouri House actually has. If you want, I don't know that it's video, but you could listen to pretty much anything audio in live real time. But the state Senate does not. By the way, I don't want to brag, but I've actually been on C-SPAN a couple times.
Oh.
So I am like a household name in dozens of homes across this country. I'm just saying.
Mr. Hollywood over here.
I'm telling you, not everybody gets to C-SPAN. You actually have to stumble into the right place accidentally and have a camera somewhere near you. And that's what it takes.
I'm going to one-up you.
I know, you probably will.
I was on C-SPAN in 1991-ish.
Nice, yes.
Studying in my law school library ahead of law school law school finals. You see the back of my head and the little ponytail and my pink sweatshirt? I was there.
I gave they broadcast the Libertarian National Convention a couple times, and I gave a speech at one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on there once. And then when I used to work for the former Congressman Bob Barr, I was like one of the prop people on the back of the stage after his nomination, which God help me if I ever have to do that again. And then there was another one. It was funny because I put together a debate between two Libertarian candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like in this little tiny like dining hall in Cass County, Missouri. And I got Gary Nolan, who's become a very good friend of mine, very good radio talk shows, and the late Michael Badnarik, who was the nominee at one point for Libertarians. And I think we had 20 people show up. And
including the cameraman.
Including the cameraman from C-SPAN. And C-SPAN aired that, and I IMC'd it. And I think that they aired it like 5 times over the 4th of July holiday because they didn't have anything else going on.
Well, there you go. You are a star. And actually, when I'm thinking about it, maybe it was CNN, not C-SPAN, because I don't know why C-SPAN would have been at the Northwestern Library.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because they don't go out and do a lot of original reporting.
They have a couple series.
And
they got the big bus.
This was about the economy and about the fact that the legal industry was really being squeezed at that point. There weren't a lot of law jobs, and that's what it was about.
Yeah,
I think it was C-SPAN.
Yeah,
it was either C-SPAN or CNN. Sorry.
So, but they've got this, and it's kind of funny because C-SPAN actually does a really good job.
Yeah,
I mean they do a really nice job, and because they do a really nice. We keep opinion stuff completely out of it.
Except for the callers.
They don't really have that many people watching or listening, but I mean, there's a big number compared to any local stuff, but compared to Fox or Newsmax or CNN or whatever, And so Senator Mike Boone in the Missouri Senate is saying, why aren't we streaming all of our proceedings?
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, would it cost a little? It'd probably cost a little bit, but not much. I mean, the House can do it, so why can't the Senate do it? And it turns out, because I was looking at the article on this, almost all of the state legislative bodies, assemblies, the unicameral in Nebraska, most of the state legislatures around the country, almost all of them have some kind of live stream, even if it's just audio. But they have something. So is it worth, I don't know, who knows, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, whatever, to set up, some stationary cameras and plug into the audio board? And if people want to watch a hearing, if they want to watch the deliberations, why not be able to do it in real time?
I would say so. I mean, they're there representing us. Yeah. Why shouldn't we have eyes and ears on the process?
Right. What do you think, Jerome?
Well, I do think it's a very good idea in terms of that reminder that the people are now watching. I mean, even if it's only the three of us in this room, probably, but that now it's not just a matter of you in the room and your constituents. It is the people that are going to be invested, especially when it comes to a lot of the promises that get made that might get brought up. It's easy to say behind, when you're behind closed doors and you come out of that, well, we couldn't get it done for this reason or that reason. Let's let the evidence display itself.
Yeah, I mean, now who's gonna tune in? People who are generally politically active, and what's it gonna generally be used for? It's gonna be used for campaign ads and social media posts and all the sorts of stuff that but that's what C-SPAN coverage is generally used for as well. But that doesn't change the underlying question: is should it be available to all of us around the state?
I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, and this might be very selfish of me, since there are people that are very witty, and I'm sure that they have these quick, comebacks and disagreements. I think it'd be great to have something where I could just clip more sound bites to use from our representatives.
Yeah, news outlets, because the days of the State House newsroom are almost over. Almost.
What's the argument against it?
Probably. I mean, there's the one that they would say in public, and then there's probably the real one behind the scenes.
Well, I want to know the real one.
Okay, so the one in the public would be like cost, money. Yeah. We're trying to cut budget. Although I'd noticed that the Republican-led legislature passed another appropriations bill that's now pushed the state appropriation spending plan right now above even what the governor is asking for. So Republicans need to show us.
That's not going to fly.
They need to show us how serious they are about this cutting behind the scenes. And when the C-SPAN debate, when they were first getting access, okay. And I've read a couple of historic books from, biographies from, long past senators over the years. And their argument was the collegial debate, the collegial relationships are ruined when the cameras and the microphones are around and people start playing to the audience and playing to the cameras instead of negotiating in good faith in the traditional sense. That's the only argument that I've heard. That was the argument against C-SPAN, for instance.
Right.
Basically, the anti-B1 Bob Dornan argument, because he was famous for early on, congressman out of California, doing whatever privilege to speak on the House floor when nobody was in session, but the camera was on him.
Right.
And he would say all kinds of bombastic stuff, and he'd end up on the news everywhere. And this was before social media.
There's some logic to that. I mean, we definitely have seen that. But at the same time, if everything else is being televised and streamed, why would the Missouri Senate be the one exception?
Right. Yeah, and it's hard to argue against the transparency.
Right.
Now, does that affect people's behavior when cameras and microphones are around? Most of the time, yeah. Now, we live in a society where we've got a whole generation that's grown up on camera. They've self-documented and self-reported.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, I don't know the concept of privacy. Well, no, you live stream your whole dang life.
Right.
Of course you don't have privacy. But in terms of this, you've got a generation that's accustomed to being on camera, and so there is a logic when you read kind of the stories about the days of the good old boys in the Senate, before things became more modern. They frankly had a whole different means of governing and coming to decisions. Could be good, could be bad. There was probably a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
But when people play to the cameras, and you basically you're embracing the influencer style of government, does that extra transparency translate into better government?
Honestly, again, and I'm only speaking for people like me, where we grew up with the internet, where everything has to be sensational or stimulating to some degree. If they're going to be playing it up for the cameras, it might do more to actually get people to tune in and see what's going on within the government.
Yeah.
Because then it's not just a bunch of drab legalese being, spewed on the thing. If you're going to be playing it up, then
The hell you say?
Oye, right?
Oh, you just stepped in it.
Now, in the same vein, though, why would a free market think tank support government charging people more money for something that shouldn't be charged more for potentially?
Maybe shouldn't.
Maybe
Maybe
shouldn't.
it should. Maybe it should.
Maybe it should.
Yeah.
We'll make sense of that at 7:35.
I'm just a step away. I'm just a breath away. Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Someone in that control room is out of control.
On News Talk STL. Someone save me from the haze. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shane Scott with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking clearing skies as the day goes on. Highs towards the mid-50s. Big story, though, Friday and Saturday, temperatures well above average, 70 degrees, mostly sunny Friday. Saturday, a little chillier, back towards the mid-60s, still warm. Then Saturday night could see some isolated chances of showers. Before Sunday, rain switches over to a possible wintry mix as we head towards the evening overnight hours. That'll continue until Monday, then switching back over to rain. More potential for a mix into Tuesday morning. From First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shane Scott.
John Beal knows it right after a hailstorm. New roofing companies start popping up everywhere. But the Small Business Administration reports 96% of them go out of business within the first 5 years. So how good is that warranty? John Beal started in the roofing business, helping his granddad and his dad. Always offering the best roof, best price, best guarantee. John Beal Roofing, not some fly-by-the-night operation. Call my friend John, 1-800-NEW-ROOF, 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
Larry Connor's commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit Vincent'sJewelers.com. This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
Few Democrats ever stood during President Trump's State of the Union address. Even as Trump said, stand if you agree. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Democrats, all of them, sat on their butts, which begs the question, would they at least honor Americans who died, nearly died for them and all Americans? Trump gave a Congressional Medal of Honor. One went to pilot Eric Stover, flying helicopter troops in to capture Maduro. And even though shot repeatedly in both legs, he maneuvered the helicopter so machine gunners could return fire. They landed safely. And then there's Navy pilot Royce Williams, who flew in World War II, Vietnam, Korea. He got into a dogfight with 7 Soviet MiGs over Korea. He shot down 4 of them. But this was such a secret mission. The full story was kept silent for 50 years. But Tuesday night, the retired Navy pilot was also awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, our nation's highest honor, at age 100.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Ever feel like just a number in a waiting room? Hi, I'm Shannon Tribune, Director of Operations with Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Navigating the medical system can be a maze of stress. I'm your personal guide at Body of Health. I handle the messy parts of medical care, the logistics and complex coordination, both in and outside our walls, so you and Dr. Tobler, that's my dad, can focus on what matters most, your health. At Body of Health, you're not just a patient, you're part of the family, because that's healthcare the way it ought to be. To learn more, schedule a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com.
I've got Dr. Michael Lewis here, West Point graduate, physician, and retired Army colonel. Is considered the world's leading expert on the use of omega-3s for traumatic brain injury and concussions. Stuart Tomp brings over 30 years of experience in the supplement industry, brought $1 billion of products to the market, and has appeared in over 6,000 media interviews worldwide, and travels internationally and teaches on health.
Stuart Tomk here, and I've come across the biggest breakthrough in personalized nutrition I've seen in 25 years.
Dr. Lewis here. For the first time, we can measure cellular and gut health
so you can start testing and stop guessing and make decisions based on real data. I'm working with world-class scientists and physicians, and what they're doing is changing everything.
You can message me at elizabeth@statmedicalllc.com. That is Elizabeth at statmedicalllc.com.
The news and talk.
You're going to defund TSA. You're going to defund Secret Service.
That matters to St. Louis.
What they're doing is putting politics ahead of the safety and security of this nation.
This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, so when can raising prices actually be a good thing, at least from a policy perspective or a budget perspective? And I'm talking about in government, because it's a conservative station here. You know, I'm a free market guy. I'm a conservatarian kind of guy, and when I hear government's going to charge people more money, our instinct is, hey, get off our back, government.
Mm-hmm.
But when could that actually be the right move?
I think
Or
we're about to find out.
Could it be the right move?
Mm-hmm.
Because what we're talking about here is we've been covering the debacle of the overspending of the St. Louis County government. Now, you can apply this, what we're about to talk about, to probably any government in the region or maybe the country as well. We're joined now by David Stokes from the Show Me Institute. He's got a blog on the Show Me Institute's website right now, St. Louis County to raise park fees. That's good. And so, David, let's start with the basic. Sam Page was whining and crying about, closing, some swimming pools for the summer and, that sort of thing. And some of the fees are going to be raised. And immediately, that's where a lot of political types are going to go, see, that's why we've got to raise these taxes. That's why we've got to institute new taxes. Budget cutting isn't enough. Let's go use the Rams money. And what you're saying is, wait a minute, if there are specific users on something, why shouldn't they pay for it?
Absolutely. And this is exactly the topic. First of all, great to be on the air with you, Mike, and everyone at News Talk STL. But this is exactly what we wrote about in a paper, the fourth part in a series of free market cities and free market county policy that I wrote about on parks and recreation that we released at the end of last year. So, right, I saw this and wanted to jump on it. This is a good thing because what they're doing here is they're raising at recreational facilities in St. Louis County operated ones, such as some pools and ice rinks and the like. They're raising certain fees in order to cover costs for those things, and they should do that. These are the type of recreational facilities that you want user fees to cover as much of the cost of that as the operating cost of that as possible. And you want to get close to 100% of that, and you want to redo these fees. You want to analyze them and consider them every couple of years and update them. And that's part of the key part of this is that Sam Page said that the county had undergone a process to study what they were charging and to make sure that they were covering operating costs to the largest extent possible. And I accept that to be true. I have no reason to doubt that statement. So let me give one example, and I'll kick it back to you. For example, like the ice rink, they're going to increase the fee of an ice rink rental for an hour to $300. Well, that's not the type of thing that we should be paying for with just general taxes. I mean, most people don't use ice rinks. I mean, I know, and there's open skates where anybody can go and skate at certain times, and that's great. But I mean, you should pay a fee for the skate rental, for the ticket for that. Or if you're a hockey team, and this is what a lot of these ice rinks are rented to, like you should be paying for that ice time. Ice rinks are expensive. You have to maintain and operate an ice rink is a lot of money, and it's not something that most St. Louis Countyans do. So unlike walking in a park, which should be paid for out of general taxes, this ice rink should be paid for out of fees. And so this is a very good thing done by St. Louis County, and it's done by park districts around the state. But here's just a perfect example of why this type of fee increase is a positive thing.
Good morning, David. This is Susie. So my instinct is that some of the pushback you might get from this proposition is people saying, well, wait a second, aren't my tax dollars already going to fund this? So you're saying that I'm going to be paying for it with my taxes and on top of that be tagged with a fee if I'm going to use it. Is there some way of showing people or of, providing that because the use fees are being increased, the taxes aren't going towards that? So there isn't that double dip argument, I guess.
And that is important. You don't want this fee to be there. If, let's say, taxes and the old fee were covering the old operating cost, you don't want the fee increase just to raise excess revenue to then cover unrelated things. You don't want the fee to then go to the fee for the ice rink to pay for police officer raises. I mean, that's not how you want this. That's not how you want this to go. And certainly, taxes are going to pay for some of these things, like the capital costs of an ice rink or a community center or a gym. All these various facilities that the county operates, those capital costs are going to have to come from taxes. But it's the operating cost, like the fund of it to run it for a year, that you want to the largest extent possible get to covered by fees. And it's not always possible to cover it by 100%. That's why it usually isn't. That's why I can't say there's no fee, no taxes at all will go to running this operation, because getting to 100% just is unrealistic. But you want that fee to cover it to the largest extent to get back to this ice rink. Those hockey teams that rent it for their leagues and their games should pay for that ice rink, at least their cost of operating time, operating that Zamboni machine, keeping the ice rink really cold. I mean, again, it's expensive to operate an ice rink, and you want that fee to capture as much of that as possible. And again, I compare this to just your neighborhood park. Nobody wants to, when you walk through your neighborhood park with your friends or your kids or whoever, nobody wants to pay a fee to use a park. You don't want to have to go to a gate and pay a fee just so you can go to that. You want to be able to walk into that park for wherever is closest to your house and take a stroll, go to the playground, sit at the table. Nobody wants to do that by saying, well, here's your use of the park, you owe us $3. No, that's what gets paid for by taxes. But swimming pools, ice rinks, gyms, those are the things that you do want to have, like a set entrance place, a set entrance time, and a fee to charge for it. So, it's the paper we released on park and recreation management in a limited government free market sense is all about sort of the theory behind this. And yet here, what I jumped all over this for is this isn't theory. This is, 1 million people in St. Louis County this affects, and I'm here to explain why this is a good thing. And I'll just always enjoy talking about it.
Yeah, and one of the other things is when you look like, for instance, I've got a lot of friends who play in those adult hockey leagues, and conversely, I talk about my old man baseball. We pay to rent the fields around the area. Many of them are owned by the public parks and rec. And so somebody who lives in St. Charles County or somebody who lives in Jefferson County, somebody who lives in the city, lives on the Illinois side and plays in one of these hockey, that means that they're paying for that and taking some of the burden off taxpayers. And Dave, one of the things that I learned early on when I was elected to a board of aldermen years ago, and I was really shocked at this, is like the community centers. You talked about the gym memberships, is that I was told, well, the industry standard is if we can cover 2/3 of the cost through membership fees and room rentals and stuff like that, that's really good. And I said, so that means that the taxpayers who don't use it are subsidizing 1/3 of it. And in the meantime, we're now competing directly against private businesses that would otherwise come to town. And they said, well, that's just the way that it is. And that may just be the way that it is. But what I'm hearing you say is the closer we can get to a free market on it, the better off we're going to be and the less burden we have to put on taxpayers. Am I reading you right on that?
Absolutely. With the key part that it's not, as much as I'd love to get to 100%, it's not always possible to do that. So I'm willing to accept some subsidy for these types of things. I'd like it to be more than 2/3 in many instances. But, there's also a room for that subsidy. So let's say you're operating a pool and if you wanted to cover 100% of those operating costs with fees, you'd have to charge, a decent amount. Well, if it's a hot summer day I think we all want, if you've got sort of a low-income family out there that really wants to get to that pool on that hot summer day, there's a public good in that, in allowing that pool use by that low. You don't want to price them out of going to the pool on a 100-degree St. Louis July day. So if there has to be some subsidy for that pool in order for that price to be reachable for more people, I'm willing to accept that. And that's why you have to do these studies of your own fees and costs. And there are people that do this, and there are pros in the park and rec field that do this. And, it's a good thing that St. Louis County just did this type of comparison, this type of analysis. So again, it keeps coming down to, you want that. With an ice rink, I'd love to get to 100% because I don't see really the public good that comes from hockey's a great sport. I'm not a hockey player, but it's a great sport. And hockey leagues are great, and it's great that one of my best friends plays in a hockey league. But yeah, that team in that league I'd love to see it get to 100% of that operating cost compared to that 101-degree summer July day. If those fees have to be just a little bit subsidized so that low-income family with 4 kids can get to the pool, that's a good thing, and I'm willing to make that trade-off.
All right. Of course, we find your article on this at the Show Me Institute's website as well. So, David, people want to follow you. I think we've already tagged you on social media, but let's go ahead and give out that information as well, because immediately our instinct a lot of times is increased cost? No. But if it's a more free market approach and takes burden off of the general taxpayer, then we need to at least have the conversation. It's not going to consume the entire budget shortfall, but it might take a few nibbles out of it.
Absolutely. And the blog post is up at showmeinstitute.org. The larger paper on the series is also at showmeinstitute.org. Just look for the free market municipality series where we have all the reports on taxes and city management and parks and recreation and more up there. And people can always follow me on Twitter at David C. Stokes. And we have an event coming up for the Show Me Institute on March 4th, sort of a legislative policy update. It's a lunch at MAC West, and I hope people go to the events page of the website, check it out, and try to join us.
All right. Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, everybody. Great talking to both of you. Always fun.
You too. It's Friday Eve. Almost Friday.
Heck
so that means it's time for Flashback Friday. It's time for your suggestions. You need to get those into Jerome. This week, our theme is what gets you pumped about America. Songs that make you get just jazzed up about the USA.
What's that song that makes you go, yeah?
Exactly.
We want to generate more Canadian tears with
That's
these songs.
exactly
Yes.
right. So get those suggestions into Jerome at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Sometimes it seems all lawmakers do is tax and spend. That's why Missouri voters passed the Hancock Amendment in 1980 to place a limit on what the government can do with your money. But the Hancock Amendment is outdated. It hasn't provided a taxpayer refund since 1999 and probably won't without reform. That's why Missouri needs a taxpayer Bill of Rights. Colorado has one, and taxpayers there have received more than $8 billion in refunds. It's simple. There should be limits on government spending and refunds when there's a surplus in the state budget. A taxpayer Bill of Rights constitutional amendment would help limit the growth of government. Missouri's budget has nearly doubled in the past 5 years, yet the state lags far behind states like Colorado in economic growth. The Hancock Amendment was supposed to protect taxpayers. Now it's time for an update and a taxpayer Bill of Rights. After all, it's your money. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
The biggest stage in collegiate pickleball is coming to St. Louis, February 27th, 28th, and March 1st. Over 500 student athletes from 64 universities compete for national glory at Arch Pickleball and Badminton in Bridgeton. It's 3 days of championship action, school spirit, and over $50,000 in prizes. Powered by Jula and streaming live on Amazon Prime and Pickle TV. Come see the future of pickleball in person or tune in from home. The National Collegiate Pickleball Championship. This is where legends get started.
PRI Global now has Prismatic, an AI-driven platform that can help you and your business, especially in construction. Simplify your operations, secure data, modernize your business from the cloud up. Visit PRIGlobal.com. Innovation with talent and technology. People, process, platform. PRI Global delivers all three. Check them out. PRIGlobal.com. PRIGlobal.com.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
Okay, I mentioned this in the news dump. I think this is fascinating. The younger the worker is in the country, the more likely they are to seek out like new skills. We're talking like the business skills. We're talking about, the things that you're going to use in the workplace, because back in our day, you had to get that degree, or then you went and got that certificate, and you got that credential, you got the little letters behind your name, whatever it was in your industry. But you went through a class, you paid the fees for it, or your boss paid the fee for it, and all that sort of stuff. And what's happening now is you can go back probably several years. You can go to Khan Academy, for instance. A lot of people, based on the fact that their local schools were doing a crap job, their kids started tapping into Khan Academy, or they started looking for things on, YouTube, or like I found a certification class through Udemy, all those different places. But a new report says that just over 2/3 of Gen Zers are going out and teaching themselves skills by going online to find things like tutorials. And we're talking about, like basic office stuff, spreadsheets, so Excel and coding and doing AI. Matter of fact, my daughter-in-law down in Florida, she's a travel agent, and she is taking classes to learn how to teach AI. Now, she's doing the more formal thing, but what's happening is that the workers are saying there's a demand for these skills, and either the education sucks or I was never taught it. I'm going to go find it myself. Mm-hmm. And so the workers, the employers, the hiring managers who were surveyed, over 70%, just over 70%, said, yeah, that's legit. I mean, they're coming in with skills. But the hard part is probably the HR department, because they want to verify you have the skills. And when somebody says, well, I learned it on YouTube, the hiring manager is saying, no, the people who learned it on YouTube learned it.
Right.
They just don't have the piece of paper to show it. So you got a little bit of a backlog on how to address that and evolve in the business world.
Well, I think you might need to come up with some basic testing.
Right.
In other words, demonstrate your skills, your aptitude. And some things, you'd want to keep it simple, not super involved. But not only, don't only show us what your resume looks like, but show us what you can do.
Right.
Well, and the services that I've used historically for jobs, they have a sort of aptitude pretest type thing, so that you could, I'm sure people probably cheat on there, but it's the idea that it's kind of the screening thing. But as we know, the HR department's the HOA of the corporate world, and they will gatekeep you for any reason that they can see fit.
I've done HR, so some of that is legitimate, but other is just HR trying to preserve their own power.
Right.
Yes, there is a
justify their existence.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. Now, but I would argue absolutely that's the case is that at least with my own education, and I'm on the border between millennial and Gen Z. I don't know exactly where I fall because I'm the cutoff for both, but essentially, I think a lot of people that were raised the way that we were raised, we weren't really given very much responsibility. We weren't really given many opportunities to develop skills. I hear people talk about they used to work on cars with their parents, or their parents would take them out and show them stuff. So we didn't get that element at home, and then you go into public education, and they were just trying to get you to get through the system so they can get their funding.
Yeah, they want to get their funding, and they want to get you pushed out as fast as they can.
So we grew up, and then we reached adulthood thinking life was just going to always be this easy. Just go and get your degree, and life will be a piece of cake. And then we realized, wow, life is actually really hard, and we don't know how to compete with the people we have to compete with. So what's the alternative? Well, the internet's free, and you can go and you can teach yourself as long as you're dedicated. And I think that actually shows more because we are taking it upon ourselves to pursue and engage with the information rather than it being mandated upon us.
I think this is a really positive thing, because there's a couple things on this. One is that a lot of these formal certification things and these online classes, the ones that are 100% valid and you're going to learn a lot from them and all that sort of stuff, some of them can be really expensive.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other flip side of it is that when it comes to a lot of the college degrees out there, they're worthless.
Yes.
And you're going to go $30, $40, $50,000 in debt and still have to be taught on the job. So you can get, and it's going to be a matter of whether you teach yourself through these tools or not. Just watching the videos doesn't mean that you're gonna learn it. And so you can equip it. And so now it's at a point where the economy is changing, and it's beyond the gig economy. It is on the individual, education economy, where you're not asking for somebody else's permission to learn stuff.
Yeah, I would also push back and say I've never had a job that was not fast food or retail where you got any sort of training on the job. If you could not prove to the hiring manager then and there that you already had at least a above minimum understanding of something, you were not even going to get the job.
Mm-hmm.
There's the idea of learning on the job is a completely extinct concept, in my opinion. That's why I also think a lot of people, if you're interested in going in a path, they are looking up what are the people that are successful saying to do, and then let's show up to give ourselves the best opportunity if we don't have a certification or degree in it.
A big part of this comes down to just initiative, self-motivation.
Totally.
If you've got the drive, you're going to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Whether it's because of the education that you pursued, paid for, or because you figured out how to educate yourself. If you've got that drive, you're going to find the way. And I think it only makes sense. It would be weird, particularly for Gen Z, not to be availing themselves of the technology to better educate themselves.
And it's out there. I mean, it's just out there. It's free. I mean, how many homeschoolers are tapping into a much better set of education than what their local public school is offering, because they're constrained by the book list and the teacher's preferences and the teacher wanting to leave at a certain time or whatever the case is. And they can explore whatever they want to fit. And like you said, it's all out there. It's on free. I mean, if I wanted to learn how to do whatever on my car, name it, I can probably find a YouTube that will walk me through the process on fixing something on my car.
There's almost always a YouTube for that.
Step by step. There's a YouTube for everything out there. So I think this is actually a really kind of a positive, bright light, in a world where, we can get despondent over a lot of stuff. The fact that 2/3 of the youngest generation that's working right now reports that they are actively trying to learn on their own, I think that's incredibly positive and hopeful.
Agreed.
That's how we're going to get our avocado toast back.
Because you can't afford it right now.
The Laborers International Union of North America, Local 110, was formed in 1933 and from the beginning has strived for progress and the well-being of others. The laborers of Local 110 are hardworking men and women who take pride in their great work. They are the fastest growing union of construction workers and one of the most effective unions representing plants and quarries. Laborers Local 110 has the best medical benefits, pension, education, and heavy construction training in the market. Visit lu110.com and start your future today.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
It's more than a rebellion. When your teen is slipping into drugs or alcohol, when social media and pornography consume their time and their mind, when depression and even suicidal thoughts cast a shadow over your home, as a parent, you feel powerless. There is hope. At Turnabout Ranch, troubled teens step away from the chaos and into a clarity of nature on a working cattle ranch. Care for horses, learn responsibility, build trust, and rediscover purpose. It isn't theory, it's real work, real therapy, real healing. Families from across the country have found transformation right here, just when they thought hope was gone. If your teen is struggling with addiction, harmful online behaviors, even weight management, call right now and get the help you all need.
800-219-2494. 800-219-2494. 800-219-2494. That's 800-219-2494.
KLDY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Cuba identifies the 10 people on a boat that opened fire on its soldiers as armed Cubans who live in the U.S., claims they were trying to infiltrate the island for terrorism. The BBC Simi Jaloma shows that it had happened off Cuba's northern coast.
The Cuban authorities say most of those on board the speedboat had prior records involving criminal and violent activity. Cuba's Interior Ministry said that border guards approached the boat to identify the passengers, but that those on board opened fire.
The guards fired back, killing 4 people. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says it's clear that Cuba desperately needs change.
It is the only chance that it has to improve the quality of life for its people and not lose 15% of its population since 2021. 15% of the people of Cuba have left since 2021. That is not a system that's working.
Rubio says the U.S. is investigating this incident. Another round of U.S.-Iran nuclear talks underway today in Geneva. Shooting at a Rhode Island ice rink. It's claimed another victim.
Authorities say a third person has died following a shooting at an ice rink in Providence, Rhode Island. Gerald Dorgan had been in critical condition ever since his ex-son-in-law opened fire at the skating rink February 16th, killing Dorgan's daughter, the shooter's ex-wife, and Dorgan's adult grandson, the shooter's son. Dorgan's wife, the shooter's ex-mother-in-law, and a family friend were wounded. As people jumped on the shooter, one witness says the gunman pulled out another weapon and killed himself. Police say the gunman specifically targeted family members. I'm Donna Warder.
Hillary Clinton is to testify today in the congressional Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Tomorrow, it's Bill Clinton's turn. On Wall Street this morning, the Dow futures are up 115 points. NASDAQ futures 11 points higher. More on these stories, townhall.com.
We have reached the age where things just cost more.
Cars, phones, life insurance.
Your blood pressure is up.
Your weight is up.
You're one to talk.
I have type 2 diabetes, so I'm getting dinged just like you.
Thank goodness for Big Lou.
Big Lou!
Big Lou can get term life insurance rates for a 50-year-old male with type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure, or maybe he's on anxiety meds. For just around $200 a month for $1 million of coverage.
Oh, you gotta say that again.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll say it. Big Lou and term provider could get a 50-year-old man, a little dinged up, $1 million in life insurance for around $200 a month.
Call Big Lou.
Big Lou!
He's like you.
800-555-2085. That's 800-555-2085.
Don't put it off. If you're overweight, diabetic, have high blood pressure, you gotta call Big Lou.
Gotta.
800-555-2085.
Write it down.
800-555-2085.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shane Scott with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking clearing skies as the day goes on, highs towards the mid-50s. Big story, though, Friday and Saturday, temperatures well above average, 70 degrees, mostly sunny Friday. Saturday, a little chillier, back towards the mid-60s, still warm. Then Saturday night could see some isolated chances of showers. Before Sunday, rain switches over to a possible wintry mix as we head towards the evening overnight hours. That'll continue until Monday, then switching back over to rain. More potential for a mix into Tuesday morning. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shane Scotch.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stegall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals, because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Mike Ferguson.
Are you being intentionally dense?
Huh? Susie Moore.
Have you ever been mistaken for a man?
No. Have you?
Get up, St. Louis.
We're a different kind of clown show.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, let me start off this hour just with a very, very simple statement. Let's save lives, St. Louis. Okay, that's a throwaway line that a lot of people say because, a lot of people, pass this law, save lives. Donate to this project, save lives. Okay, but there's actually a demonstrable return on lives being saved when you're working with Reach Reproductive Health. And Levi Hart from Reach Reproductive Health with that. By the way, I don't know if anybody notices that every day I'm doing my coffee here. I've got the Reach mug right here. So that's on camera, which you all gave me at the last event we were at.
Yeah.
And I want to get into the update on what's happening because we're talking pro-life, but we're not talking politics here. We're just talking about that on the ground, face-to-face, heart-to-heart sort of work that is saving lives, which we'll let you document here in a second.
Yeah.
But next week, we got an event coming up, and everybody who's a church-going type of person needs to be asking their church leadership if they're going to be there. So let's first put that out there because, I want people to listen to this conversation and then go grab the podcast and send it to their pastor, elder, deacon, or priest, or whoever it is that they have, the rabbi or whoever. What is it? Because I've been to this event before, but what's coming up this next week? Actually, it's like a week from today. It's next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So it's Church and Life STL. So originally we're going to have like a pastor's lunch for Reach last year, but then we decided, you know what? Why don't we really open this thing up? Why don't we invite every major pro-life org in St. Louis into the room to exhibit, and then invite the entire church in St. Louis, bring them all together, because together we can save more babies. There needs to be unity in the pro-life movement. There needs to be unity in the church. There needs to be unity between those two groups. Now the pro-life movement, is largely like the fringes of the church. So the idea is like, how can we get the core of Christians more involved? So the event is really just a networking luncheon, and it's free. So, because it's sponsored by various churches. So you can show up 12 p.m. at the Commons next Thursday, have a lunch. Sandy Brown from Joy FM, is going to be speaking at it. Actually, the Attorney General is going to be sharing a little bit about Amendment 3 that's coming up right now. Yeah. So the entire pro-life
is Catherine
movement.
going to be there? Or is she sending in a video?
She'll be there.
Oh, Catherine's going to be there. No kidding. Great.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to her in person in forever.
Yeah. So you'll be able to see her. Maybe able to meet her, and ask whatever questions you might have, and let's see, 1 in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in 2026.
That's so stunning.
It is.
That's so stunning.
It is.
That means everybody who's listening right now, whether you realize it or not, somebody who has or is about to.
Exactly.
Or will someday.
Yeah, it's very unlikely that you don't. And there's a dad on each side of one of those as well. And we have to engage with this. And I agree. I think, I care about the political side. I think laws do make a big difference. Like, because murder is federally illegal in the United States, you have less murders, and I think you would have if it wasn't. So I think the politics are important. But at the same time, we have to engage with this, with people individually. It comes down to engaging with the individual person. And we can only do that if we get together and say, hey, we're going to give this attention.
Yeah, and that's what I think has been so successful with what you do. You don't work with a young woman, or dare I say a young girl who's in a crisis pregnancy, and meet with them and say, okay, here's how you need to vote on this.
Yeah.
That's not what you're doing. These are women, girls, oftentimes young men, scared to death because they have a pregnancy that they're not prepared for, they don't want. Maybe they're in a terrible other situation. They've got to clean up something else in their life. This has nothing to do with the voting. There's nothing. I mean, somebody could be, feel strongly about pro-life, but they don't like the laws or whatever the case is. This is about saving the lives, and not even just because the criticism of one of the criticisms of the pro-life community that the left likes to throw is that, well, you're just pro-birth. You just want to outlaw the abortion, and then you leave people, to go fend for themselves. And that's not what you're doing. You're doing the exact follow through that oftentimes people are accused of not doing.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic that that's even accused, because the thing is, if let's say there was a federal abortion ban, which I would love if that happened, pregnancy centers would be even more necessary. Because the thing is, like, we're already prepared to care for those who have babies. We do parenting classes for a year plus. We plug them into all sorts of resources, whether that's financial, educational, vocational, diapers, pack and place, car seats, you name it, whatever it is. And most importantly, relationally, wrapping arms around them, because there's so many people that don't have support in that particular area too. So yeah, that's a petty cop out, like you're just, pro birth. But yeah, so this event is about getting the church plugged in more than ever, because truly this is a church issue. And not just because, like, okay, it's our Christian morals, but secondly, because 73% of women in America who have an abortion claim to be Christians. 43% have been to church in the last month. So what are we doing? Let's get together so we can engage this thing. Because it's not just going to go away on its own. It's not going to go away just being talked about, in Jeff City or in the White House. It has to be us individually impacting lives.
So let's talk about who needs to get in touch with you. I mean, a lot of people will say, well, there's a lot of big churches out there, and a lot of them are really involved. The average size of a church in this country right now is about 60 or 70 people.
Yeah.
And they're hearing this, or, their pastor's hearing it, or somebody just goes to a small church, which is what's normal. And they're like, man, we're too small. We can't, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
But those are the churches that need to hear this.
Absolutely.
And they need to get in touch with you and say, okay, well, is there a place for us at this event?
Yeah, absolutely. Big church, small church, multi-denominational, whatever it is, we want everyone there. And it's funny that you brought that up, Mike. Like, a lot of people get the idea that most of the church is just the mega churches.
Right.
But really it is, like, actually it's like most of the church in the U.S. in particular, but then you go even further than that, it's even less mega churches outside of the U.S., but is made up of small churches. So we need every single church involved, no matter what denomination you're in, whether you're Catholic, you're Protestant, evangelical, Lutheran. I was meeting with my Eastern Orthodox friend the other day. Let's get together and do this thing. And each and every person plays a role. And there's over 20 pro-life organizations that are going to be exhibiting. This is not just a reach thing. So, I mean, you can plug in wherever you feel gifted and called, and it's like, hey, what could I do to be helpful? You're going to be able to talk with all these people. I mean, you guys will be there as well.
Oh, we'll be there. Yeah. I'm going to be there. And so somebody say, okay, well, Levi, yeah, we're definitely pro-life. Sure, we'll maybe even hand out some flyers. We don't get involved in the politics. That's just an issue. That's an issue that divides people. We just don't want to do that. They need to get over that, because first of all, this isn't politics, but secondly, they need to get over it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so it's always been an interesting thing to me, and you can look at history in this. I mean, look at World War II. Look at slavery. It's like the moment a spiritual, moral, ethical issue enters politics, we don't want to touch it. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, now it's political, and it's really just like we shouldn't allow our hands to be tied like that. Because that's slavery in and of itself. Like, really, as soon as something enters politics, now we chuck our morals out the window. We're not going to act on them. I mean, that's how World War II happened. I mean, that 67% of the church didn't want to get political. and didn't choose a side between the right church or the confessing church. So, no, okay, if you don't want to engage in the politics right now, fine, I get it. I mean, I can say good reasons why I think we should legislatively vote for abortion to be illegal. But say you don't want to touch that right now, that's fine. There's people right now that are abortion vulnerable that need your help, that can use your help because you come and volunteer, because you come and pray, because you come on staff of one of these organizations, because you give to one of these organizations. Whatever that looks like, there's so many things to be done.
Yeah. Now let's do an update on where you are in the last couple of minutes we've got here, Levi. So up and running, you have already engaged with how many women and girls who have come in, either the terms that I'm using your terms, abortion vulnerable, like you just said, or abortion determined.
Yeah.
And they end up in front of one of your folks.
Yeah.
How many women or girls are you working with or have already? Just because we're talking just this year, basically.
Yeah. So I need to get the numbers for this year, but I can tell you from March till December, end of year, 2025, we served 500 patients.
Wow.
So, and we just opened in March of last year.
Yeah.
So, that was the beauty of taking over Thrive. I mean, we immediately got, every bit of the traffic that was coming in. So we've been able to serve the community in a beautiful way.
Yeah. And literally saving lives, and none of this has anything to do with politics.
Yeah.
And that's what I just can't stress enough, because I think there's a lot of people who are, maybe even politically on our side, but when they think pro-life, they immediately think of political debates.
Yeah.
I think of pro-life, I'm thinking of what you do. I'm thinking of who cares how she votes, or if she votes at all. I don't care. What you have right now is a life that needs to be saved, because a life needs to be saved.
Yeah. I mean, anyone who comes in, they're not going to hear an ounce of anything political. And our goal isn't to get them in there and then be like morally convince them, ethically convince them, or politically convince them at all. It's really about empowering them. Because if you bring them in, and you get them in by offering them a pregnancy test, STD test and treatment, and ultrasound, so what we dub a pre-abortion screening, and you give it to them for free, they save several $100s by not going to Planned Parenthood. You get them in the door. Then they can take their medical records where they like. But that's the hook, but once you get them in, it's okay. What is going on financially, educationally, vocationally, emotionally, spiritually as well, if they want to discuss it? Like, what's happening in those areas? What's going on informationally? Do they know what abortion really is? Do they know what kind of abortion they would need to have? Do they know anything about adoption? Like, have they really considered parenting, pros and cons? So it's empowering them with resources and information, and then you show them the ultrasound, and you should see what's going on in there. We have the technology to be able to do it, and that's true empowerment. And when you do that, many times they're going to choose life. And yes, it's not a matter of, just statistically, it doesn't work real well to get someone who's already in a crisis and to just try to do a big, especially trying to convince them politically. I mean? That's not going to get you anywhere. The moral conversation almost always comes up, but not because we bring it up. Because it's more because, and the spiritual conversation usually comes up too. But again, it's not because we push towards it. It's because as you start empowering them with information and resources, their executive function turns on and they start to think clearly. Whenever it's like, oh, this is what abortion looks like? Wow, okay. Oh, this is what fetal development looks like? Oh, it has a heartbeat at that point? Oh, and this is just biological information on those things. Once they get in front of an ultrasound, you'll literally have women, we don't say anything like this. That's very professional, but you'll literally have women who get an ultrasound we've seen say, oh, wow, that's a baby. Oh, that would be like murder. Like we've literally heard that kind of thing. And we're not going to say that like, hey, you've been murdering this baby in your belly or something like that. They will connect these dots.
Yeah, truth is that powerful.
Oh, exactly. All you got to do is just pull off the lies, pull the scales down and just watch what happens.
Yeah. All right. So this coming Thursday, obviously RSVPs are very helpful when you're planning something.
Next Thursday.
I'm sorry, next Thursday. Yeah, week from today.
Yeah.
This coming Thursday. RSVPs are obviously helpful to help you plan for the food and everything.
Yeah.
But this is the call to action here is 1, attend, but 2, point this out to the leaders of your church or your ministry, because there may be some other ministries out there that you want to network with that aren't necessarily a church.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, outreachforlife.org, everybody. Outreachforlife.org. Check out our events next Thursday at the Commons, 12 p.m. It costs you nothing. Just get RSVP'd. We have lunch for you. Sandy Brown's going to be speaking. There's over 20, I think there's almost 30 exhibitors that are going to be there. Last year, there were over 120 churches represented. And we look forward to seeing you all there.
There's plenty of room.
Yeah. I mean, we packed it out last year. Don't get me wrong. You know, because I think the room filled up at like 350, and we were right there.
Yeah.
And we're over 200 right now. So usually last week is when it fills up. So make sure you please RSVP and grab your spot.
Yeah, and this is one I can't emphasize enough. Contact your pastor or your whatever leader or your deacon or whatever it is in your church. Contact them and say, hey, do you know about this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then they need to do that. Let's give the website out one more time.
Yeah, that's outreachforlife.org, and just click on our events, and you're going to see it right there.
Great. Thanks, Levi.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
All right, just ahead here, another Missouri politician may go to prison. Yeah. We'll tell you who and why in the news dump coming your way right around 8:22.
Don't try to make me stop, no inspiration. You have a soul so dark, it is no more. And all at once depart, no destination. You're making cold my heart to fight your war. Stop it right now.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
The strong protecting the weak and the good defeating evil.
On News Talk STL.
Before you blow us all away.
Yo, this is Vic. Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every Wednesday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Brought to you by Alamo Military Collectibles, Gemini Wealth Group, and Heroes Care.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community, Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
Freedom Caucus Unfiltered, debuting this Sunday night at 7 on News Talk STL. Hear all the behind-the-scenes stories about what the State Freedom Caucus is doing across the country, directly from the legislators and the people that are doing it. Freedom Caucus Unfiltered, this Sunday night at 7 with very special guest Mark Meadows, hosted by Tim Jones. Freedom Caucus Unfiltered, now Sunday nights at 7 on News Talk STL.
Streaming TV is where it's at. It's not about cutting the cord anymore. That's old news. It's all about your customized TV options. With the best and cheapest high-speed internet and your own TV subscriptions, we've got your dream TV lineup. Between wired and satellite internet and TV, you now have tons of options. Save money and get more internet speed and better TV today by calling the Whole Home Connect. We scan your location and offer you the best TV and internet options. And we always have specials and promotions. So when you call, ask about that. Take 5 minutes of your time, make this free call now, and learn how to save money and get better internet and TV for your home anywhere in the U.S. Make this simple and free call now.
800-257-1632. 800-257-1632. 800-257-1632. That's 800-257-1632.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new app.
And listen anytime, anywhere.
Good morning, Missouri. It's your boy, Joe Pags. I'll talk to you tonight at 10. But right now, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right. The clock is ticking. Are we going to bomb Iran again?
It seems that way.
It's certainly starting to look like that. Yep. President Trump's choice for Surgeon General meeting with a lot of skepticism in the Senate. Also, Blues back on the ice tonight. Cardinals offering fans some choices on this year's Hall of Fame ballot, Team Hall of Fame ballot.
Ooh.
I'll tell you who's on that in just a second. It is 8:24 right now. Let's go ahead and do one more news dump.
The Morning News Dump, brought to you by The Nutrition Stop.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The Morning News Dump.
Okay, the U.S. and Iran have resumed talks today in Switzerland. President Trump openly considering military strikes on the country, but he says Iran still wants to make a deal. Secretary of State Marco Rubio asked about that by reporters, and he says this is all about the nuclear weapons.
We hope progress can be made because that's the president's preference, to make progress on the diplomatic front. But it's also important to remember that Iran refuses to talk about the ballistic missiles, to us or to anyone. And that's a big problem.
All right, we've already got a number of fighter jets arriving in the Middle East from a base in the UK. It's actually the largest military buildup in the region since the start of the Iraq War back in 2003. Iran's supreme leader says they are not even trying to build a nuclear weapon. And like I said earlier, if you can't believe the supreme leader of Iran, who can you believe in this country? Just saying. Oh, my goodness. All right, a former Missouri Speaker of the House could spend years in prison, maybe 2 years in prison. Federal prosecutors are asking for a sentence of 21 to 27 months for John Deal. The former speaker pleaded guilty back in September to wire fraud, so he's admitted to misusing hundreds of thousands of dollars in COVID aid funds. John Deal was a Republican speaker who was forced out of office in 2015 after being caught exchanging sexual texts with a 19-year-old intern. And he's admitted to basically spending the COVID funds on incredibly frivolous things, fancy cars, private club memberships, setting up a benefits plan for an entire company that involved one employee, and that was him. So he's admitted, but his argument, among other things, is that I paid all the money back, so I shouldn't have to go to prison. The sentence should be really light, and that's not what federal prosecutors are saying. They're saying, no, you can go to the Gray Bar Motel.
I think he needs a nice little vacation in a concrete box for a little bit, just to really emphasize and set the example to others. We are not playing those games anymore.
Yeah, so we'll see what the sentence is going to be. Probably going to be another couple weeks before we find out one way or the other. Okay, Medicaid funding in the state of Minnesota being temporarily halted by the feds, and this is obviously over all of the fraud scandals.
Vice President J.D. Vance announced that the federal government would suspend some Medicaid funding to Minnesota as part of what he described as an aggressive crackdown on misuse of public funds. The Trump administration has launched an effort to root out fraud across the country, including in Minneapolis, where there are allegations of fraud involving daycare centers run by Somali residents. On Tuesday, President Trump said Vance would spearhead a national war on fraud. Greg Clugston, Washington.
All right. In the Senate, the U.S. Senate, they held a confirmation hearing yesterday for Donald Trump's Surgeon General nominee, Casey Means. That was on Wednesday. Nominee says, when asked about the vaccine controversy, she says she wants more investigation as to whether or not there's a connection between vaccines and autism.
Until we have a clear understanding of why
What just happened there? I don't know.
Are developing this at higher rates, I think we should not leave any stones unturned.
Okay, so I don't know when the vote is going to be scheduled on her confirmation on that.
It'll be interesting if she is confirmed and they do follow through on that, because science is meant to be a continuation of tests and observations. And
well, it's a search for truth.
Yeah. And so worst case scenario is that what we've already established to be the claims that they don't have anything to do with autism stands true, and that's good science. Or best case scenario, maybe there is something that we could be doing a little bit differently.
Yeah, so Susie actually earlier said she's actually read Casey Means' book. She really liked what she heard in that. She's a fan. I don't know anything about Casey Means, so I'm going to have to do a little more reading on it. Let's see here. Also, we've gone from the Senate now to the House. The House Oversight Committee has subpoenaed the Clintons, and today Bill Clinton is expected to testify regarding the Epstein case. So that has not happened yet. That's going to happen here in a little bit. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more details on that tomorrow.
Are we going to make a drinking game for how many times they plead the fifth?
Oh, yeah. And what's interesting, as Susie was explaining earlier, is that there have been some negotiations on what questions can be asked and which topics are going to be off limits, which I don't like that, but they've got them in there to be questioned. But there's some insulation, it looks like, for the Clintons. So I don't know which direction this is going to go. We'll know more both this week and probably more later next week when more of the testimony gets released as well. Okay, Blues back on the ice tonight. The NHL season now resuming after the Olympics. Blues are going to be at home. They play the Kraken at Enterprise at 7 o'clock. FanDuel has that game. Cardinals pick up a 6-0 win over the Mets on Wednesday. Nolan Gorman with a 3-run home run in the third inning. Redbirds are back in Jupiter today hosting the Astros. That is a 12:05 game. There is no TV coverage of that one, though. Cardinals announced their nominees for the 2026 Team Hall of Fame. So we're not talking about Cooperstown. We're talking about the Cardinals Hall of Fame. Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina, Brian Jordan, and George Hendrick are on the ballot this time around. Fans can vote through April 17th. Go to the Cardinals website for more information about that. Going to go out on a limb, not trying to influence your vote. I would never try to meddle in the election. But I'm saying Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina are pretty good chance of getting in. If it were on Polymarket, I'm betting on them getting in to the Cardinals Hall of Fame. Just saying.
Mike Ferguson in the morning
They were drinking water out of the toilet.
on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Shane Scott with your first alert forecast. We're going to be tracking clearing skies as the day goes on, highs towards the mid-50s. Big story, though, Friday and Saturday, temperatures well above average, 70 degrees, mostly sunny Friday. Saturday, a little chillier, back towards the mid-60s, still warm. Then Saturday night could see some isolated chances of showers. Before Sunday, rain switches over to a possible wintry mix as we head towards the evening overnight hours. That'll continue until Monday, then switching back over to rain. More potential for a mix into Tuesday morning. From First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shane Scott.
Fox News commentary with Will Kane next.
If you're over 40 and plan to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you've built becomes just as important as growing it. And that's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. They help investors reduce risk by adding gold and silver to their portfolios. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult with your tax or financial professional before making investment decisions.
Here's Will Kane.
$1 billion campaign ad cut in a matter of 30 seconds, live, in front of the nation, in front of your eyes, at the State of the Union address. President Donald Trump put a very simple proposition forward to the members of the United States Congress and Senate. Is it your job, primarily, to represent the interest of American citizens, or is it your job to concern yourself with illegal immigrants? He asked the entire body to stand if they see their jobs as described, as serving Americans first. Here is the response.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Democrats in Congress remain seated.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Producer Joey V from the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show here, reminding you, don't waste a buck on movies that suck. Tune in to Joey V's Movies Fridays at 5:45 for reviews you can trust. Brought to you by Harry J. Steakhouse in Moscow Mills.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Patrick Toohey, he is senior fellow with the Show Me Institute.
You can say it's schools, you can say it's crime or the perception of crime. Those are legit, but, St. Louis needs fewer reasons for people to leave, whatever they are. And even if the 1% tax isn't the top reason they leave, it's not keeping people in. And St. Louis needs to be competitive with the municipalities around them.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Connor Roofing, you can count on Connor. Connor Roofing is now a 2-time winner of the National Best of the Best Award for customer satisfaction for roofing, storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, both residential and commercial. Please visit ConnorRoofing.com for an estimate. And remember, you can count on Connor.
1 in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in this country. That's the tragedy we must work to stop. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here, and that is why Reach Reproductive Health is here, to empower parents to save the lives of innocent children and to see these families come to Christ. And you can be a part of saving and changing lives. So pray and visit outreachforlife.org to learn more, volunteer, and donate. That's outreachforlife.org.
Whether at home or at work, you're mobile. So when you're mobile, stay mobile. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com.
Let's get back to all this madcap mayhem with Mike Ferguson in the morning. But don't forget, stick around for Jones and Arps every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m.
Channel 4 did a really interesting long-form story on last night's news. Lauren Traeger really did a nice job with it. A lot of activists, or there are some activists, I shouldn't say a lot, there are some activists upset that police in Missouri are willing to partner with federal law enforcement, particularly ICE. Okay, so, but Lauren did not do the rage bait thing.
Oh.
Which was, I mean, she did, it's actual journalism, which is nice to see.
That's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, it is. So here's what happened is there's an activist group in the city, left-wing group, called the Micah Project, which I went and looked up their website this morning just to check it all out. It's an immigrants' rights organization. And the thing is that I don't even have a problem with the private sector groups doing that if they're working with legal immigrants. But part of their big pitch is deportation prevention. So they're targeting, and this is a nonprofit group that is pro-illegal alien. I mean, I'm sure they're working with legal immigrants too, but legal immigrants have a much more reputable source in the Independent Institute in St. Louis. But so really what this is they want to be like, you know, the battle line, you know, standing with the illegals is what they are.
So a group that wants to engage in breaking federal laws are not happy that local law enforcement might be helping enforce federal laws.
Yeah, but there are some fair questions to ask about this. And that's frankly what Lauren Traeger did in the article. So here's what's going on is that Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE, they are offering benefits and incentives to local law enforcement agencies if they'll partner with them. Essentially, here's the contract. Here's the funding and equipment that's available if you do it. And then they're willing to specifically train and, for lack of a better term, deputize local police, sheriffs, whatever, if they've gone through the proper training and certification to be able to make arrest and carry out immigration enforcement. So they gave an example, and Creve Coeur is not one of the cities that has one of these contracts. They're just not. But they showed, you know, basically the body cam footage of a traffic stop. Well, the driver didn't have a driver's license. After a few questions, the police officer was like, "Are you in this country illegally?" And the guy admitted that he was. So they went and ran the check. Turned out he had been deported before. He came back in the country illegally, and he was pulled over for the traffic stop. So they arrested him for driving without a license, not for the immigration, but for driving without a license, and then contacted ICE. Okay, so they're showing that's one of the ways that something like this could work, although they didn't arrest him for the immigration thing. They arrested him for the violation of Missouri law. So here's part of Lauren Traeger's story and how it started off to kind of set the tone for where this is at. And it's going to start off with a soundbite from the activist group, the Micah Project.
A reality in St. Louis is what we like to call at Micah the police to ICE pipeline.
Alicia Hernandez with the local immigration organization, the Micah Project, says while St. Louis has not yet seen a massive surge in immigration enforcement like other major cities, there has been an increase in the region's local police initiating immigration action.
In our region, based on the data from the Rapid Response Line, 90% of our callers fall into ICE custody starting at a traffic stop. And so police are cooperating with ICE.
That is something new. That's different.
Yeah, and so there is something called a 287G agreement, which is a contract between a federal, like a law enforcement agency and ICE.
A 287G agreement, which allows, quote, state and local law enforcement officers the authority to perform specified immigration officer functions under ICE's direction and oversight.
It emboldens the departments to act on behalf of ICE.
Though the contracts have been around for a long time, Hernandez says one never existed before in Missouri. Now, First Alert 4 Investigates has learned 44 have so far been signed by agencies all over the Show Me state.
Okay, so Lauren Traeger's comments in there are just objective, stating the facts. Obviously, her guest, and that's what you do the stories for, is to get your guest or your interview subject's opinions. They're looking at this from the lens of, well, this is really concerning. Look at this. They're working with ICE. Now, that spokesperson, I thought she was very calm and measured, and she's an activist, and she's probably very well spoken for her position on this. But that's the assumption that the activists on the left have, is that, well, if they're working with ICE, clearly this is a problem that we need to spotlight. Whereas other people are saying, oh, local law enforcement is working with ICE. Clearly this is law enforcement doing its job. Now, it's not necessarily that simple, but that's the concept.
Yeah, and I'm kind of on the fence because on the one hand, I would like the mass deportations to be manifested and actually become a reality. I think that it's probably better for a lot of people that are currently here to be back safely in their own homes than what we know to be going on in some of these communities towards people that maybe were even lured here under false pretenses or became victims because of bad actors type thing.
Trafficking, yeah.
But at the same time, when it comes to the separation of local law enforcement and federal law enforcement, I think it was in 2025, it was, I think, 125 U.S. citizens in that moment could not immediately prove that they had that they were citizens, and they ended up being detained and having to be processed by ICE until later on they were released because, it's not that hard during the investigation, but still, if you're on your way to go pick up your kids, and then that happens, you can't prove you're a citizen in the moment. I mean, I know people that they don't really drive. They have friends that they carpool with, and so they don't really feel the need to have an ID. They're not smokers, they're not drinkers. And under the way that local law enforcement is allowed to detain and conduct their local investigations compared to what would be required federally, I can see this maybe being an issue when it comes to preserving Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights.
All right, let's go to the next part of the story here because it goes into a little bit more depth on what you were just talking about here.
The federal government now offering major financial incentives for agencies who sign up, including money for equipment, new vehicles, and reimbursement of the full salary and benefits of local police trained by ICE. Officers are eligible for monetary performance awards based on locating illegal aliens and overall assistance to further ICE's mission.
Is that a concern?
It is a concern. We are seeing racial profiling. We're seeing over-policing.
Okay, now the only thing that in that part of there that that kind of raised my eyebrow is the incentive, basically bounty. That sort of incentive that can go sideways really, really, really fast. And here's the thing is that we are among those who've been complaining that local law enforcement wasn't cooperating with the feds in Minnesota.
Yeah.
You say, well, aren't you being hypocritical? Well, not really, because they weren't being asked to do federal immigration enforcement. They were being asked to do crowd control and stop assaults.
Yes.
Stop assault on a law enforcement officer. Stop, stop the violence. Stop the, the hindering of traffic. And that they were being asked to enforce the actual laws in their community, and the law enforcement chose not to because the political leaders wanted criminal activity to stop federal law enforcement. So what we're talking about here is a much more proactive, coordinated thing. And, it's like, for instance, all the years we hear, oh, well, they've got a quota for writing tickets. So that means they're going to aggressively go write tickets. Well, almost every police officer I've talked to went, no, we don't get a bonus for writing more tickets. We know speeders are out there. We should catch them or not let them off if they're dangerous. But I've never had a cop say, oh, yeah, if I don't hit my quota, I'm in trouble. I've never had a cop. And I've been around a lot of cops over the years. My dad was a chaplain for the Illinois State Police, so I've grown up, around emergency services providers. And I haven't really grown up around police stations. I was more in a fire station. But I've interviewed many, many cops on the record, off the record. Off the record, they're like, we don't get a quota, But we know that, we know that if we know when we're not doing our job,
Yeah, and I want to correct, it was 170 U.S. citizens were wrongfully held by ICE in 2025. But let's even take another step back from that. So stop and frisk in New York, right?
Yeah, that was.
Most of us that are logical would say that's a Fourth Amendment violation that was targeted at people. Now, the Supreme Court disagreed, and they ruled no, that was a valid thing. And then, in fact, in many cases, they did indeed get firearms out of the hands of people that were not supposed to have them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, is that really what we want to do? Where it's here's a tourist area, so these are people that are here on a vacation, and potentially these people might be somebody. So we're going to implement some sort of stop and frisk type, or like checkpoints.
It's a matter of when you come across somebody that you can determine is illegal. Yes.
Absolutely.
That's what law enforcement does, is on there. So, but we want to make sure that while we're corralling and controlling illegal aliens, and they should never feel safe, they should always feel they're one day away from being sent home. We also want to make sure that we don't allow law enforcement to step out of its lane just because our side's winning right now.
Yes.
So that's what we have to keep in mind. Here's another part of Lauren Traeger's story, which, by the way, you can find, I'm sure it's on KMOV's social media. It's definitely on. I found this on their YouTube page.
There are some people concerned that these agreements could increase racial profiling by local police.
No. Not in my opinion, anyway. Not in my department. It's not going to make a difference.
Washington County Sheriff Scott Reed signed a 287G agreement at the end of January.
When one of our guys make a traffic stop and there's a person there of questionable citizenship, then we can take care of it right there.
A benefit, he says, to free up his officers who used to have to wait for ICE agents to drive from St. Louis.
It's also a benefit that, we're going to end up with a car out of the thing, and right now, vehicles are fairly expensive, if you hadn't noticed.
As for paying the salaries of the 2 deputies getting trained, he says he doesn't even think that will ultimately happen. There's no timetable either, he says, on when they'll receive the other financial incentives.
Yeah, so to me, what's described here in the story just kind of makes sense. Because, for instance, it was laid out in another part of the story, which again it's like a 4.5-minute story, so I don't have time to do the whole thing here. But it's a matter of, okay, we come across somebody, we've even confirmed they're illegal. Maybe we've confirmed there's a warrant. Okay, well, right now, if you're not, authorized to do this, they have to basically sit and wait for you while ICE or DHS comes out from whatever regional headquarters they're at, and you could be there for hours instead of being out on patrol, instead of responding to another call. So if law enforcement has a clear, defined role and lanes and where you can and can't go on this, I don't think that there's a problem with it with the proper oversight.
I would like to know more about the actual requirements that local law enforcement would have. So, let's say, for example, people go to a frat party, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of international students that are on our colleges. So something happens, a fight breaks out, law enforcement has to show up. And it just so happens that one of the international students there, you can't verify if they're an actual student, if they're just from the community, they're not speaking very good English, but they don't have anything on them immediately that would identify that they're a student or that they're allowed to be in the United States. Would then you have to sit there and say, hey, you stay right there,
probably.
and then I have to call for backup to take care of this already existing incident? Or
probably.
Okay.
Now, at the same time, if you're in a country that is not your own, you're a guest, you're a visitor, isn't it incumbent upon you to make sure that you have that with you? If I go visit wherever, I'm not planning any trips anytime soon, but if I went, I looked up when I went to the UK, 9 years ago, that I made sure that I got the tips, keep this document with you, keep copies of it with you in case you lose. And so I was always very, very careful to make sure I had everything that would make it clear who and what I am and that I'm in their country legally when I was there, because that's the responsibility I had to Scotland and the UK when I was there, because I was their guest.
I agree.
Yeah.
Now, I would also like to point out, though, that this is the last call for 80s-themed Flashback Friday bump music requests that make you feel like a true patriot. I don't know.
A winner.
Victorious. We want songs to rub in the face of every team that lost to our teams in the Olympics. So send us your America victory songs to Jerome at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
There's something wrong with him. He's a sick puppy.
On News Talk STL.
Hey, looking for the ultimate escape? Well, welcome to Santino's, where luxury meets authenticity. Hey, Jamie Allman here, inviting you to browse hundreds of premium cigars in the walk-in humidor, including rare aged cigars, and explore 700 bottles of whiskey. And Santino's offers authentic Sicilian cuisine prepared from scratch. Whether it's their non-smoking wine room, gaming lounge with custom poker tables, or event spaces perfect for any celebration, it's Santino's, just off 55 at the Imperial exit, Santino'sCigarCocktails.com.
Hi, this is Mark Harder with RE/MAX Results, the region's largest RE/MAX real estate brokerage. It is cold outside, but the real estate market is hot. This is a great time to buy or sell a home. Interest rates are also declining, which gives you more buying power. Someday is not a day on the calendar, but today is. Call me at 314-852-8933 for a free custom home buying plan. 314-852-8933.
I've got Dr. Michael Lewis here, West Point graduate, physician, and retired Army colonel, is considered the world's leading expert on the use of omega-3s for traumatic brain injury and concussions. Stuart Tomp brings over 30 years of experience in the supplement industry, brought $1 billion of products to the market, and has appeared in over 6,000 media interviews worldwide, and travels internationally and teaches on health.
Stuart Tomk here, and I've come across the biggest breakthrough in personalized nutrition I've seen in 25 years.
Dr. Lewis here. You know, for the first time, we can measure cellular and gut health. So you can start testing and stop guessing and make decisions based on real data. I'm working with world-class scientists and physicians, and what they're doing is changing everything.
You can message me at elizabeth@statmedicalllc.com. That is Elizabeth at statmedicalllc.com.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Ken. Yeah, Vic. Why is it a problem keeping porn out of grammar school library? It's a no-brainer. Jane Pushkar from Francis Howell School Board to explain that to us Thursday at 9:41.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
The Mike Ferguson Show is one of my favorite programs. In addition to Larry Connor's USA, catch my program at 6. Now, back to Mike.
I'm going to get a little wonky here. I'm thinking about that conversation we had with David Stokes from the Show Me Institute a little bit earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, is going to be up on the podcast. And here's what's interesting about that. Because we're talking about, we've talked a lot about the budget shortfall with St. Louis County. Okay. Tens of millions of dollars. And while we love to just heap all of that on Sam Page, it's not all Sam Page's fault. Sam Page is the one who approves the final budget. This has been years and years of overspending by government, which happens all the time. And so one of the things that Sam Page was whining about last week is that they have to close a couple of the swimming pools, and they're raising fees for a lot of parks and rec things. Well, the Show Me Institute, which is, by the way, a very free market free think tank, and I know because I used to be their communications director, they're pointing out that, no, on the things that are very specialized, why shouldn't the users be the ones who pay for it? When I was first elected to the Board of Aldermen, where I used to live long time ago, I remember going through the budget. And one of the things we were looking at was our community center. And just about every town of any size has its own community center. And we had the big gym, and we had the big pool and the splash pool and the slides and, the banquet center that people could rent and the, the meeting rooms that people could rent. And all of that stuff was there. And then I found out that the user fees and like the membership to the community center, the rental fees for renting the banquet room or whatever, the party room for the kid's birthday party or whatever, that covered something like 60 some odd % of the operating cost. The rest was just taxpayer funded. And I remember saying back then, I'm like, okay, so the people who can't afford a membership because they're poor or don't have an interest in it are still being forced to pay for this. Well, yeah, but you have to have one as a city. You've got to be able to offer that. And I actually had one bureaucrat say, well, because if we don't do it, then they're not going to have it. I'm like, there's not going to be a 24-hour fitness or a, anytime fitness or a club fitness or I'm like, the Gold's Gym. And they said, well, they charge more for a membership. Well, yeah, because they're not being subsidized by taxpayers. And they told me, they said, listen, if you can get 2/3 of your cost covered by memberships and rentals, that's really good. And I said, okay, if you get 2/3 of your cost covered by customers in the real world, you go out of business. And that just didn't compute with me. And so what David Stokes is saying is 100% accurate, especially when you have something as expensive as an ice rink, a hockey rink or ice skating rink, you could, or swimming pools, because they're really expensive. When I was on the board, we actually shut down and demolished a couple of our swimming pools.
Wow.
For a variety of reasons. But the idea that a specialized thing should be subsidized by the government if there's a market for it just doesn't make sense to me. And for instance, we joke a lot about my playing in the old man baseball leagues. Well, we pay for our time on the fields. If we're out playing, and our league is actually technically a nonprofit, but if we're out playing in St. Peter's at the Recplex, we paid for that at the market rate. So we're contributing to your cost of the parks and recreation. If we're in O'Fallon, Illinois at Blazer Field, we're paying for that time. We're paying for these, and that's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the taxpayer's job to give us a place to play. We pay for it. So why shouldn't the hockey leagues, youth or adult, why shouldn't the figure skating clubs and class, why shouldn't they pay for that? Why should somebody who doesn't why should they be expected to provide that just because you want to offer it as a community? Well, if there's a private sector market for it, somebody will build it or buy it or take over for it. And if it's too expensive, why should taxpayers then be on the hook for a bad business idea?
That's a very fair point. I mean, I don't know the exact statistics off the top of my head, but I'm sure that, the wheelchair community are not going out of their way to go ice skating as often as somebody that wants to be a hockey player. So how is it fair to tax them for something that they're not going to use? Same thing with pools. I don't typically go outdoor swimming.
I don't do pools.
I just burn too quickly in the sun. Even with SPF 1000, I get.
You're pretty Nordic there, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah, you're pretty Nordic,
I get all lobster looking, and people mock me, so I stay away from the outside pools. But I will go to an indoor pool, and I would not expect people to publicly fund that. I would say, is it within my budget?
Right.
And again, there are times where maybe you have to cut back. You want to make a major purchase or investment, and you're like, well, it would be nice to be able to save this little bit of extra money. So this week I'm going to cut it back from going to the ice rink or going to the pool or going somewhere else. But it's still being taken out of your income because of taxes.
Yeah, and here's the thing is, I mean, the hardcore libertarian will say, they will argue against the Parks and Rec Department in the first place that, you shouldn't force anybody to pay for. Okay, well, common sense says that that's part of your community and, dare I say, planning, that, having those amenities are something that you can say there's demonstrable public good, but it needs to be incredibly, incredibly limited. Parks and Rec departments are often some of the most aggressive in wanting to grow. They want bigger budgets. They want to offer more stuff because there's so much cool stuff out there. But the more that they grow, the more that you're squeezing out the private sector on that. There are all sorts of things where you can strike that right balance and say local. And that's the thing with parks, is they're hyper local. This isn't a federal mandate. It's not a state mandate. This is a local community that will vote for a tax in order to have a park or something like that. I take advantage of the parks. I got no issue with that. But when you get into the specialty stuff, I think David, and I think Show Me Institute's spot on in saying that if you use the specialty stuff, you should be the one to pay for it, and you shouldn't be expecting the taxpayers of that community to provide it for you, especially in this day of needing to balance budgets to the tune of tens of millions of dollars of spending cuts. You just shouldn't be adding more or keeping that burden on taxpayers. And you know what? If the cost goes up too much that your hockey team can't afford it anymore, well, then guess what? You can't afford it. But that doesn't change that you shouldn't be burdening somebody else with that because you want the stuff to be subsidized. That's just not fair. That's just not right.
No, absolutely. It's incredible the amount of times where the thought of having something subsidized by the community feels good to have that thought, but then the reality of the situation, it's like, well, is this really worth the cost? I mean, I will always stand up for public libraries because everybody benefits from those.
We'll debate that someday.
Okay.
I think we should get rid of them.
I am a pro-library guy, Mike.
I am anti-public library. I have come around to the point where I'm like, you know what? We don't need to spend the money for those things.
Ooh.
Yes.
Ever feel like just a number?